Welcome, weary listeners, to the Reddit Slumber. It's time to leave the busy waking world behind and settle in for some of the most captivating stories Reddit has to offer. If you enjoy drifting off to these tales, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and make yourself at home. Now close your eyes, relax your mind, and let's get straight to the stories. Story 1.
I'm 38M David, sitting in my home office while my ex-fiancée melts down via voicemail. This happened 5 days ago, and I'm still processing how fast everything unraveled. Monday afternoon, I was reviewing contracts when my lawyer Jennifer called. David, the prenup is ready for signatures. Clean, straightforward, protects your business assets and the house, everything we discussed. Background: Rebecca, 31F, and I had been engaged for 8 months, together for 2 years. She moved into my house last year after her lease ended. Seemed natural at the time. I own a construction company, built it from nothing over 12 years, worth about $2.3 million, plus my house and investments. The prenup was standard stuff. My business stays mine, the house I bought before we met stays mine. Her assets stay hers. If we divorce, she gets reasonable support based on marriage length, but no claim to what I built before her. Fair and logical. Thanks, Jennifer. I'll bring Rebecca by tomorrow to review it. That evening, I made dinner, salmon, her favorite. Poured wine, kept things relaxed. Jennifer finished the prenup. We can review it tomorrow and sign if everything looks good. She looked up from her phone, eyebrows raised. Prenup? I thought we talked about this. I don't want one. We discussed it briefly when we got engaged, but I never said we'd skip it. My business and assets need protection. It's just smart planning. Her expression shifted. Not surprised. Annoyed. David, I'm not signing anything that says I get nothing if we divorce. That's not what it says. It protects what we each brought to the marriage and provides fair support if things don't work out. I don't care what it says, I'm not signing it. Red flag number 1. But I stayed calm. Rebecca, this isn't negotiable. I won't marry without asset protection. She laughed. Actually laughed. Asset protection? From me? That's insulting. It's business, not personal. Everything about marriage is personal, David. She stood up, hands on her hips. Here's the deal. You either marry me as is or not at all. No prenup, no contracts, no lawyers, just us. The ultimatum hung in the air. 2 years together, and she was showing me exactly who she was. Okay, I said. She smiled, thinking she'd won. Good. I knew you'd see reason. No, Rebecca. Okay, as in not at all. Her smile vanished. What? You gave me 2 choices. I'm choosing not at all. David, don't be ridiculous. You're not calling off our wedding over a stupid contract. I'm not calling it off over a contract. I'm calling it off because you just showed me you think marriage means claiming half of everything I worked for before I even met you. That's not. That's exactly what it is. You won't sign a document that protects what's mine, which means you believe what's mine becomes yours. That's not partnership, Rebecca. That's opportunism. She stared at me for a long moment. You're serious? Completely. Fine, sleep on it. You'll change your mind. She went upstairs. I heard the bedroom door slam. I didn't sleep on it. I called Jennifer immediately. Jennifer, it's David. Cancel the prenup drafting. Cancel everything. The engagement's off. David, are you sure? People get emotional about prenups. Maybe give her time to. Jennifer, she laughed at it and gave me an ultimatum. Marry her as is or not at all. I'm choosing not at all. Understood. I'll note the file is closed. Next call, the wedding planner Sandra. Sandra, this is David Mitchell. I need to cancel the wedding. Oh my goodness, David, is everything okay? The wedding's in 6 weeks. Everything's fine. The engagement's off. Please cancel all vendors, arrangements, everything. Send me the cancellation breakdown. David, this will be expensive. You'll lose some deposits, and there will be cancellation fees. Probably around $28,000 total. I understand. Cancel everything. What about Rebecca? Shouldn't she be involved in these decisions? Rebecca made her decision. I'm making mine. I spent the next 2 hours calling vendors, photographer, band, florist, caterer. The venue was the biggest hit, 15,000 gone. Catering was 8,000. The rest added up fast. Tuesday morning, Rebecca came downstairs acting like nothing happened. Morning, babe, coffee's ready. I was at the kitchen table with my laptop working through vendor confirmations. Rebecca, we need to talk. If this is about last night, I forgive you. The prenup thing was hurtful, but we can move past it. There's nothing to move past. The wedding's canceled. She froze, coffee mug halfway to her lips. What do you mean, canceled? I mean, I spent last night calling every vendor and canceling everything. The venue, catering, flowers, music, photography, all of it. You can't cancel our wedding without discussing it with me. You gave me an ultimatum. I accepted it. I didn't mean cancel the wedding. I meant drop the prenup. That wasn't the ultimatum you gave me. You said marry you as is or not at all. I chose not at all. Her face went red. This is insane. You're throwing away our relationship over money. I'm protecting myself from someone who thinks she's entitled to half of everything I built before I met her. That's what marriage means, David. Sharing everything. No, Rebecca. Marriage means building a life together. It doesn't mean you get to claim what I spent 12 years building before you existed in my life. She started crying. Real tears, but I didn't budge. Where am I supposed to go? This is my home too. This is my house, Rebecca. Your name isn't on anything. You can stay through the weekend to find a place. But this engagement is over. You can't just kick me out. I'm not kicking you out. I'm ending our engagement. You're welcome to stay a few days while you figure things out. But we're not playing house anymore. She stormed upstairs, slammed the door, started making phone calls. I heard her crying, ranting to someone about me being unreasonable. Friday was quiet. Rebecca barely spoke to me, just shot dirty looks and made snide comments. Saturday, she left early. Said she was going dress shopping with her sister. I didn't correct her that there was no dress to shop for. Sunday evening, my phone started ringing. Unknown number. David, this is Michelle, Rebecca's sister. What the hell is wrong with you? Hello, Michelle. What can I do for you? Rebecca showed up to her dress fitting today, and no one was there. The bridal shop said the appointment was canceled. She's hysterical. The wedding's canceled, Michelle. I told Rebecca that Tuesday morning. You can't just cancel someone's wedding. I can cancel my wedding, which is what I did. Do you have any idea how humiliating this was for her? Standing outside the dress shop like an idiot. Rebecca knew the wedding was canceled. If she chose not to believe it, that's her decision. She thought you were bluffing. I don't bluff, Michelle. You're destroying her. She's been planning this wedding for months. She destroyed it herself when she refused the prenup and gave me an ultimatum. Over a stupid contract. You're willing to throw away 2 years for a piece of paper? I'm willing to protect 12 years of work from someone who thinks marriage means claiming what she didn't earn. Michelle hung up on me. An hour later, Rebecca came home sobbing. The dress shop was closed. There was no appointment. I looked like a complete fool. I told you the wedding was canceled, Rebecca. I thought you were being dramatic. I thought you'd come to your senses. I did come to my senses. That's why we're not getting married. Update 1. 2 weeks later. The last 2 weeks have been a parade of flying monkeys and guilt trips. Thanks for the comments and support. Good to know I'm not crazy for protecting my assets. Rebecca moved out the following Tuesday. Her parents came with a U-Haul, and the whole family treated me like I was the villain. Her dad actually tried to intimidate me. David, you're making a huge mistake. Rebecca's a good woman. I'm sure she is, Mr. Thompson. Just not the right woman for me. You're throwing away something special over money. I'm protecting something I built over 12 years from someone who thinks she deserves half of it for showing up. Her mom was crying, begging me to reconsider. She loves you, David. She's just scared about the future. Mrs. Thompson, scared people don't laugh at reasonable requests and issue ultimatums. They communicate and find solutions. Rebecca herself tried one last manipulation attempt while packing. David, I'll sign the prenup. Let's just postpone the wedding a few months and... No, Rebecca. Why not? I'm agreeing to what you wanted. Because you only want to sign it now that you've lost everything. Your first instinct was to demand half of my life's work. That tells me who you really are. People make mistakes. I was emotional. Emotional people don't laugh at their partner's concerns. Entitled people do. She left in tears. I felt bad for about 5 minutes, then remembered her laughing at the prenup. The financial damage, $28,000 in cancellation fees and lost deposits. Expensive lesson, but cheaper than a divorce would have been. The social damage. Lost some mutual friends who think I'm heartless. Kept the ones who understand that protecting your assets isn't selfish. The following Wednesday, my business partner Mike called. David. Heard about the wedding. You okay? Better than okay, Mike. Dodged a massive bullet. Rebecca seemed nice, though. Rebecca was nice when everything went her way. The prenup showed me what happens when it doesn't. 28 grand is a lot of money to prove a point. 28 grand is nothing compared to losing half my business in a divorce. Thursday, Rebecca's best friend Sarah called me. David, Rebecca is devastated. She's staying with her parents, crying constantly. I'm sorry she's upset, Sarah, but this was her choice. Her choice? You canceled her wedding. After she refused to sign a prenup and told me to marry her as is or not at all. That prenup was insulting. She felt like you didn't trust her. Trust isn't the issue, Sarah. Smart business practices are. I don't trust anyone with my financial future. That's why I have insurance, contracts, and lawyers. Marriage isn't a business transaction. Parts of it are, Sarah. The parts that involve money, property, and legal obligations. Rebecca wanted all the benefits with none of the protection. The best part of this whole mess? My sleep improved immediately. No more subtle anxiety about Rebecca's comments about our money when talking about my business profits. No more wondering why she seemed so interested in my financial statements. Update 2. 1 month later. Just when I thought the drama was over, Rebecca managed to surprise me one more time. Last week, I got a call from my bank's fraud department. Mr. Mitchell, this is Janet from First National. We need to discuss some unusual activity on your accounts. What kind of activity? Someone attempted to add an authorized user to your business checking account 3 weeks ago. The request was submitted online with your login credentials, but our security system flagged it because the IP address was different from your usual location. My blood went cold. Who was the authorized user? Rebecca Thompson. The system shows she had account access for approximately 6 hours before our fraud detection locked the account. 3 weeks ago. Rebecca was still living in my house 3 weeks ago. Janet, what could she have accessed in 6 hours? Account balances, transaction history, and she attempted to transfer $15,000 to an external account. The transfer was blocked by our large transaction hold, which requires phone verification. She tried to steal $15,000 from my business account? It appears so. We need you to come in immediately to secure your accounts and file a report. I was at the bank within an hour. Janet walked me through Rebecca's access logs. She logged in at 2:17 a.m. on the Tuesday before you called off the engagement. Spent 4 hours downloading statements and transaction histories, then attempted the transfer at 6:23 a.m. The Tuesday before, that was the night after our prenup conversation. While I was sleeping, Rebecca was upstairs trying to steal from my business. Mr. Mitchell, this is wire fraud, federal crime. You need to file a police report. I called Jennifer immediately. Jennifer, I need you to meet me at the police station. Rebecca attempted to steal $15,000 from my business account. David, that's a felony. Are you sure you want to pursue this? She tried to rob me while living in my house, Jennifer. Yes, I'm sure. The police report took 2 hours. Detective Williams was thorough. Mr. Mitchell, do you have any idea how she obtained your login credentials? She lived with me. I sometimes worked from home, might have typed passwords while she was around. She's tech savvy, works in social media marketing. The attempted wire transfer suggests premeditation. This was an impulse, she planned it. Detective, what happens now? We investigate. If the evidence supports charges, we'll issue a warrant. Friday, I changed every password, closed old accounts, opened new ones. The bank's cybersecurity team walked me through additional protections. Saturday, Rebecca called me. First time since she moved out. David, I heard you went to the police. Hello, Rebecca. How did you hear that? My friend works at the bank. She said there was some mix-up with our accounts. Our accounts. Even now, she couldn't help herself. There's no mix-up, Rebecca. You attempted to steal $15,000 from my business. That's not what happened. I was just checking to see if you'd been hiding money from me. By trying to transfer it to yourself? I wasn't going to keep it. I was proving a point. What point exactly? That you don't trust me. You were so worried about a prenup, but you were hiding assets. Rebecca, it's my business account. Of course, I didn't give you access to it. If we were really partners, you would have. We were engaged, not business partners, and now we're nothing. She hung up. Sunday, her father called. David, this police business needs to stop. Hello, Mr. Thompson. Rebecca made a mistake accessing your account, but she didn't steal anything. She attempted to steal $15,000. The only reason she didn't succeed is because the bank stopped her. She was emotional. Upset about the wedding. You can't ruin her life over this. Mr. Thompson, she tried to commit wire fraud. That's a federal felony. David, she's young. She made an error in judgment. Accessing someone's bank account and attempting to transfer money isn't an error in judgment. It's a crime. Monday brought a call from Detective Williams. Mr. Mitchell, we've completed our initial investigation. The evidence is clear. Unauthorized access, attempted wire transfer, premeditation. We're issuing a warrant for Ms. Thompson's arrest. What's the charge? Wire fraud, computer intrusion, and attempted theft. She's looking at federal charges. Final update, 3 months later. Rebecca was arrested last month at her parents' house. The whole thing made the local news because her dad tried to prevent the arrest and ended up in handcuffs himself. The legal proceedings have been straightforward. Rebecca's lawyer tried to argue she was confused about account ownership due to the stress of the broken engagement. But the evidence was overwhelming. The bank security logs showed she specifically searched for large balances, transaction patterns, and attempted the transfer to an account she'd opened specifically to receive the funds. Hard to claim confusion when you open a receiving account first. Rebecca pled guilty to avoid trial. Got 2 years probation, restitution to the bank for their investigation costs, and a felony conviction that'll follow her forever. Her parents tried to blame me right up until sentencing. Mrs. Thompson called me the day before Rebecca's sentencing hearing. David, please ask the judge for leniency. Rebecca's learned her lesson. Mrs. Thompson, I'm not the prosecutor. This is a federal case now. You could tell them she's not really a criminal. She committed wire fraud, Mrs. Thompson. That makes her a criminal by definition. This is destroying our family. Rebecca destroyed your family when she decided to commit felonies. The financial impact has been minimal. The bank covered all security upgrades and monitoring services. I'm out the $28,000 in wedding cancellation fees, but considering what Rebecca really had planned, it was the bargain of a lifetime. The social fallout was interesting. Most people who heard the full story, the prenup refusal, the ultimatum, the attempted theft, completely understood my position. The few who still think I was too harsh probably weren't people I wanted in my life anyway. I've been dating again. Casual, no rush. The prenup conversation happens early now. Usually by the 3rd date. Amazing how quickly that filters out the wrong people. My business partner Mike put it perfectly. David, you didn't just dodge a bullet, you dodged a guided missile with your name on it. The best part? I sleep like a baby now. No more wondering if Rebecca really loved me or just loved my assets. No more ignoring red flags because I thought love conquered all. Love doesn't conquer federal wire fraud charges. The prenup wasn't about not trusting Rebecca. It was about protecting what I'd built. Her response showed me she believed marriage meant instant access to everything I owned. The attempted theft confirmed she was willing to take it even without marriage. So to any guy reading this who's considering skipping the prenup because your fiancé thinks it's unromantic, remember Rebecca. Remember that the woman who truly loves you will want to protect your assets as much as you do. Because your security becomes her security. The woman who refuses and then tries to steal from you, she was never planning to stay. She was planning to take what she could and run. Rebecca laughed at my prenup and gave me an ultimatum. I called her bluff and discovered she was already planning to rob me. Best okay I ever said.
Story 2.
When my sister Betsy called and asked me to be her bridesmaid, I didn't hesitate. Yes, of course, yes, I practically shouted into the phone, my voice echoing in my small apartment. It was a chance to do it right this time. Her first wedding, 15 years ago, was a blur I experienced through spotty satellite calls and a handful of blurry photos. I was on a 9-month deployment halfway across the world, sweating in a uniform while she was gliding down an aisle in silk. The guilt of missing it had settled deep in my bones, a permanent ache. This time, I was going to be the best damn bridesmaid she'd ever seen. Betsy was ecstatic. "Oh, Liz, I knew I could count on you. It's going to be so much fun." Just a simple local thing. Classy but low-key. Mark and I just want to celebrate with our real friends and family this time. Simple and local sounded perfect. At 43, my tolerance for drama was at an all-time low, and my bank account wasn't exactly overflowing. I hung up the phone, buzzing with excitement, already picturing myself zipping up her dress and holding her bouquet. The first crack in the simple facade appeared a week later in the new Betsy's Bridal Brigade group chat. A picture popped up of 4 of us photoshopped into slinky satin dresses, the color of a faded rose. They were beautiful, I'll admit. Then came the link. Asterisk, maid of honor, Sarah Times. Wow, gorgeous Bets. Asterisk. Bridesmaid Chloe Times, love it. My finger hovered over the link before I tapped it. The webpage loaded. My eyes scanned past the elegant model and landed on the price. 500 of a Mogtiv. I blinked, then did the math. With the mandatory matching shoes, $75 and alterations, I was looking at over $500. I typed and deleted 3 different responses before settling on a simple thumbs up emoji. My phone buzzed with a private message from Sarah. Asterisk. A little steep right? Asterisk. I typed back instantly. Asterisk, a little. That's half my monthly grocery budget. Asterisk. Asterisk. Just the beginning, I'm afraid, Times, she replied. Asterisk. Just smile and swipe the credit card. Asterisk. Sarah was Betsy's oldest friend. She knew the terrain. I took her advice, closed the chat, and tried to forget about it. It was a one-time cost, I told myself. It's for Betsy. 2 weeks later, an email landed in my inbox with the subject line, Vegas Baby Bachelorette Bash. My heart sank. Las Vegas wasn't just a different state for me. I'm in Canada. This was an international trip. The email was a meticulously planned 4-day itinerary involving a penthouse suite VIP bottle service at 3 different clubs, a Magic Mike live show, and a mandatory all-white with a splash of neon dress code for Friday. Night. The estimated cost per person, not including flights or food, was $1,200. The group chat exploded. Asterisk Chloe Times, oh my god, this is amazing. Asterisk Bridesmaid Maria Times, can't wait. I stared at my screen, feeling a cold dread creep up my spine. I did a quick search for flights. Another $600, plus the exchange rate, plus food, plus the outfits. I was looking at a $2,500 weekend. I called Betsy. Hey, Bets. Got the bachelorette email. It looks incredible. Right, it's going to be epic, she chirped. It is. It's just a little more than I was expecting. Vegas is a big trip. There was a pause on the other end. Her voice when it came back was a few degrees cooler. Liz, this is my bachelorette party. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. You had one for your first... The words were out before I could stop them. I immediately regretted it. That was a potluck and a bar crawl in our hometown, she snapped. This is different. Mark and I are in a better place financially. We want to do things right. Asterisk, you are Times I thought. Asterisk, I'm not. Asterisk. But I couldn't say it. I didn't want to be times that times person, the one who ruins the fun. Okay, I said, my voice small. Yeah, okay. It'll be great. I hung up and transferred money from my savings account, the one I'd been carefully building for a down payment. So much for that. The hits kept coming. There was the engagement party for which we were all expected to chip in for the catering. Then came the bridal shower hosted by her fiancé's mother, where the invitation included a link to a wishing well for cash gifts. My calendar was filling up with expensive mandatory fun. Then came the registry. The email read, "Your presence is the only present we need, but if you insist on spoiling us, we've put together a small list of items to help us start our new life." I clicked the link. Small was not the word I would have used. The page was a sea of designer kitchenware, high-tech gadgets, and luxury home goods. I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled. A silver-plated picture frame for $250. A set of 6 wine glasses for $400. A robotic vacuum for $900. I sorted the list by price low to high just to see what the entry point was. The cheapest item was a single artisanal French cheese knife. It cost $165. I laughed. It was a hollow, empty sound. This wasn't a wedding. It was a shakedown. A beautifully curated pastel-themed shakedown. I started hearing murmurs from the other side. Mark's groomsmen were complaining too. His brother, the best man, apparently had a huge fight with him about the cost of the bachelor party, a golf weekend at Pebble Beach. Even my aunt called me, whispering, "Did you see this registry, Elizabeth? $165 for a cheese knife? Does it cut the cheese by itself?" The stress was mounting. The wedding was still 4 months away, and I was already thousands of dollars in the hole. I felt trapped. Every time I thought about backing out, the image of those blurry photos from her first wedding flashed in my mind. I couldn't miss this one. I couldn't let her down again. Last night, I was sitting on my couch staring at my credit card statement when my phone chimed with an email notification from Betsy. The subject line was, in all caps, "Surrounded by star emojis. Asterisk. Asterisk. Big news and a very important update. Asterisk." I braced myself. What now? A mandatory pre-wedding spa day. A destination dress fitting. I took a deep breath and opened the email. My eyes scanned the first few lines of bubbly, exclamation point-filled text about love and new beginnings. Then I saw the sentence that made the air leave my lungs. After a lot of thought and a truly incredible offer, we just couldn't refuse. We've decided to move our celebration. Forget the local country club. We're going to the Caribbean. My phone slipped from my hand and hit the floor with a dull thud. I didn't even flinch. I just stared at the wall, my heart hammering a frantic, furious rhythm against my ribs. The Caribbean. A second destination event. She had to be joking. I snatched the phone back up my thumb, jabbing at her contact name. It rang twice before she answered, her voice syrupy with manufactured excitement. "Liz, did you see? Can you believe it?" "Betsy, what the hell is this?" The syrup vanished. "Excuse me, it's our wedding." We're excited and we wanted to share the news. The news. You just added another $2,000 to everyone's bill, at least. We all agreed to a local wedding, Betsy. That was the plan. "Plans change, Liz," she said, her voice tight and defensive. "Mark got a fantastic deal through his company. It's a gorgeous, all-inclusive resort. It's practically a vacation for everyone. A vacation we didn't ask for and can't afford." My own voice was rising, a tremor of pure rage running through it. The $500 dress, the Vegas trip, the registry where the cheapest thing is a cheese knife. And now this. Do you have any idea what you're asking of people? "I'm asking them to celebrate my marriage," she shot back. "I'm sorry if my happiness is in times inconvenience times for you." Your happiness is costing me my down payment on a house. The words exploded out of me raw and unfiltered. I'm thousands of dollars in debt for your simple local wedding. I can't do this, Bets. Nobody can. There was a brittle silence on the line. I could hear her breathing sharp and shallow. When she finally spoke, her voice was laced with a cold, dismissive pity that was worse than the yelling. You just don't get it, do you? She said softly. You've never been married. You don't understand what it takes to plan a truly special day, what it means. This is my one day to feel like a princess, and you're trying to ruin it by complaining about money. The air went out of my lungs. It was such a low blow, so perfectly crafted to wound me, that I couldn't even form a response. My single status, the quiet life I'd built for myself after years in the service, was now a weapon she was using to paint me as ignorant and bitter. This has nothing to do with me being married or not. I finally managed my voice dangerously quiet. This is about you treating your friends and family like human ATMs. If you can't afford it, Liz, maybe you should just say so, she snapped. Maybe you shouldn't be a bridesmaid after all. The threat hung in the air between us, ugly and absolute. Click. She hung up. I stood in the middle of my living room, phone in hand, shaking. My screen lit up. A private message from Sarah. Asterisk. She hung up on you too, didn't she? Asterisk. Another one from a number I didn't recognize. Asterisk. Hey, this has been Mark's best man. He gave me your number. Are we all getting financially fleeced? Or am I crazy? The guys are about to stage a mutiny over this Caribbean bullshit. Asterisk. The relief that washed over me was so intense my knees felt weak. I wasn't alone. I wasn't the bitter, unmarried sister trying to ruin everything. I was just one of the many people being bled dry by the bride and groom. The Betsy's Bridal Brigade group chat remained ominously silent for a full day. Then a new message from Betsy appeared. It was a screenshot of flight deals to Street Lucia, followed by a link to the resort's booking page. There was no apology, no acknowledgement of the insane cost increase. Just a chipper message times. Let's get these rooms booked, ladies. Only 12 weeks to go. Can't wait to have my best girls by my side times, followed by a string of heart emojis. It was a power move. A dare. She was calling our bluff, knowing how hard it would be for any of us to detonate a friendship or a family relationship over this. Maria and Chloe replied with enthusiastic gifs. Sarah sent a non-committal. Looks beautiful. I stared at the message, the unspoken ultimatum, clear, get on board or get out. The image of those blurry photos from her first wedding swam in my head. The ghost of my past failure. If I backed out now, I'd be the villain of the story for the rest of our lives. The jealous sister who couldn't handle her happiness. The one who made it all about money. But if I stayed in, I'd be rewarding her. I'd be validating this monstrous entitled behavior and bankrupting myself in the process. I felt trapped, backed into a corner she had expertly constructed. For 2 days, I didn't reply. I let the silence hang there, my own little protest. On the third day, I made my decision. I wasn't going to let her win, but I wasn't going to let her push me out either. I was going to finish this on my own terms. I booked the cheapest flight I could find, one with 2 layovers, and a middle seat at the back of the plane. I RSVP'd yes to the resort. I posted a single sterile thumbs up emoji in the group chat. Then, I opened a new tab on my browser and navigated to a registry. The page loaded a monument to her greed. The $900 vacuum, the $400 wine glasses, the endless parade of overpriced homewares. I sorted the list by price low to high. There it was at the very top. The cheapest item. The entry fee to her new life. The artisanal French cheese knife. $165. I looked at the absurdly ornate silver handle, the ridiculous curve of the blade. A tool for a life I couldn't fathom, bought with money I didn't have for a sister I no longer recognized. It was the perfect symbol for the whole charade. A shakedown disguised as a celebration. A slow smile spread across my face. It wasn't a happy one. It was the smile of a soldier who has chosen her weapon. I added it to my cart. I typed in my credit card number. The number's already seared into my brain from the dress and the Vegas trip. For the gift message, I kept it simple. Congratulations. Can't wait to celebrate with you. I clicked purchase. And for the first time in months, I felt a flicker of control. She would get her bridesmaid. She would get her Caribbean wedding. And she would get her goddamn cheese knife. And when she opened it, I truly hoped, she would understand exactly what it meant.
Story 3.
A 29 male proposed to my fiancée 8 months ago. We'd been together for 3 years before that. I thought we were solid. I thought wrong. 3 days before Valentine's Day, she sat me down in our living room with that serious expression that tells you bad news is incoming. I've been thinking, she started, about us. About whether we're really right for each other. My stomach dropped. Where is this coming from? I just need to know if what I feel for you is real love or just comfort, familiarity. You know, we're engaged. You said yes 8 months ago. I know, and I meant it. But lately I've been wondering if I said yes because I genuinely want to spend my life with you, or because it was expected. Because you're safe. Safe. She called me safe. Like that's a bad thing. So what are you saying? I want a break. Just for a little while. To see if I miss you. To see if being apart makes me realize how much I need you. The timing wasn't lost on me. Valentine's Day was in 3 days. The reservation I made 2 months ago at the fancy Italian place she loved. The weekend trip I'd planned. The earrings I'd already bought. 3 days before Valentine's, I said flatly, I know the timing isn't great. The timing is perfect, actually, for you. What does that mean? It means you get to be single on Valentine's Day. Free to do whatever or whoever without technically cheating. And if it doesn't work out, you come back to safe old me. Her face hardened. That's not fair. I'm trying to be honest with you. Honest would have been talking about this before we got engaged. Or before you accepted the ring. Or before I put down a deposit on a wedding venue. I didn't know how I felt then. And now you suddenly do? 3 days before Valentine's. She crossed her arms. I need space to figure things out. That's not unreasonable. I looked at her for a long moment. The woman I'd planned to marry. The woman I'd build a life with. The woman who was now asking for permission to test the waters while keeping me as a backup plan. Okay, I said. She blinked. Okay. Take all the time you need. Really? You're okay with this? I'm saying take your break. Figure out what you want. I won't stop you. She looked almost disappointed. Like she'd expected more of a fight. More begging. More proof of how much I needed her. I'm going to stay with my sister for a few days, she said. Just to clear my head. Sure. You're being weirdly calm about this. What would you prefer? Should I cry? Beg? Would that prove my love better than 3 years of actually being there? She didn't answer. Just packed a bag and left. The moment the door closed, I did something I've been putting off for weeks. I called and canceled the Valentine's reservation. The $200 deposit was non-refundable, but honestly, that was cheaper than the emotional cost of sitting at that table alone. Then I returned the earrings. Got store credit. Used it to buy myself a new watch I'd been eyeing for months. Something just for me. Felt strange. Felt right. Then I sat down and really thought about the last few months. The late nights she'd been working. The new interest in self-improvement. The distance that had been growing between us that I'd chalked up to wedding stress. I pulled up her location, sharing on my phone. She'd never turned it off. She wasn't at her sister's house. She was across town, at an apartment complex I didn't recognize. Interesting. I screenshot it, saved it, then turned off my own location sharing, so she couldn't track me. The next morning, I woke up to a text from her. Missing you already. Hope you're doing okay. I left it on read. If she missed me so much, she could have stayed. But she didn't. She chose to leave. She chose to lie about where she was going. That text was just maintenance, keeping me warm on the back burner while she explored her options. 2 days before Valentine's, I got a text from her cousin. We'd always gotten along well. She was the cool one in the family, the one who called out BS when she saw it, the one who'd privately told me once that I was too good for her cousin. Cousin, hey. Heard what happened. You okay? Me been better. How'd you find out? Cousin. She posted on Instagram about taking time for myself with a spa selfie. Asked my aunt. Got the full story. Me, what did she tell you? Cousin. That you're being unsupportive of her emotional journey. Her words. Me, wow. Cousin, yeah. For what it's worth, I think she's being ridiculous. You deserve better. Me, thanks. Means a lot. Cousin. If you need someone to talk to, I'm around. Serious offer. I thought about it for maybe 30 seconds. Me? Actually, yeah. Want to grab coffee tomorrow? Cousin, sure. I'll text you the place. The next day, February 13th, I met her cousin at a coffee shop. We talked for 3 hours. About the situation, about her family, about how her cousin had always been the golden child who got away with everything. She's not at her sister's. I told her. What do you mean? Location sharing. She's at some apartment across town. Has been since she left. Never once went to her sister's place. Her cousin's expression shifted. Understanding, then disgust. She's with someone. That's my guess. She wanted a break conveniently right before Valentine's Day. Lied about where she was staying and has been at the same address for 3 days. Doesn't take a detective. That's not a break to find herself. That's a trial run with another guy. Yeah. I figured. And she expected you to just wait? Well, she did this. That's exactly what she expected. The break was supposed to give her freedom while keeping me on ice. What are you going to do? Nothing. She wanted a break. She's getting one. I'm just not going to be waiting when she decides she's done experiment. Her cousin looked at me with something like respect. Most guys will be losing it right now. What's the point? She made her choice. I'm just accepting it faster than she expected. You know, she hesitated. This is probably inappropriate. But do you have plans tomorrow? For Valentine's? I did. Canceled them. I don't either. My ex and I split 3 months ago. First Valentine's single in 4 years. That sucks. It does. Want me single together? Strictly as friends. Anti-Valentine's solidarity. I laughed. Actually laughed for the first time in days. Sure. Why not? There's this new tapas place I've been wanting to try. Nothing fancy. Just good food and maybe too much wine. Sounds perfect. So that's how I ended up having Valentine's Day dinner with my fiance's cousin. And that's what my fiance called. Update 1. Valentine's Day evening. We were halfway through our second bottle of wine when my phone rang. Her name on the screen. Her cousin saw it. Raised an eyebrow. You gonna answer? Might as well. I picked up. Hello. Hey. Happy Valentine's Day. Her voice was bright, almost manic. I've been thinking about you all day. Have you? Yes. And I realized I was so stupid. I don't need a break. I know what I want. I want you. I want US. Background noise on her end. Restaurant sounds. Glasses clinking. Where are you? I asked. Just out. With some friends. Nothing crazy. But I want to come home. Tonight. Can we talk? Sure. We can talk. Great. I'll be there in like an hour. We can order in, watch a movie, make up for lost time. Her voice dropped suggestively. I really missed you. Did you? Of course. This break made me realize how much you mean to me. You're my person. Interesting. Because according to your location sharing, you've been at the same apartment across town for the last 3 days. Not at your sister's like you said. Dead silence on the line. What? The apartment complex. The one you've been staying at since you needed space. Whose place is that? That's... You were tracking me? You never turned off location sharing. I just looked. That's a complete violation of my privacy. And lying about where you were staying is what? Exactly. Her cousin was watching me. Wine glass paused halfway to her lips. She could hear enough to piece it together. It's not what you think, my fiance said quickly. It's just a friend's place. A friend. You've been staying with a friend for 3 days. On a break from our relationship. 3 days before Valentine's Day. You're twisting this. Then explain it. I don't have to explain anything to you. You're being controlling and paranoid. I actually laughed. I'm controlling? You asked for a break so you could stay with some other guy without it being cheating. And I'm the problem. I didn't. It wasn't. She was sputtering now. Where are you right now? I can hear noise. Are you at a restaurant? I am, actually. On Valentine's Day? With who? I looked across the table at her cousin, who was now openly grinning. Your cousin, actually, The silence that followed was almost worth the entire disaster. My cousin? You're on a date with my cousin. It's not a date. It's two single people having dinner on Valentine's Day. Since we're on a break and all, we're not on a break anymore. I just said, you said you wanted a break. I gave you one. Now you're upset that I'm not sitting at home crying while you test drive your other option. That's not how this works. You cannot date my cousin. According to you, I can do whatever I want. We're on a break. That's the whole point. Her cousin grabbed the phone from my hand. Hey, it's me. Quick question. Does your mystery friend know you're engaged? Or did you conveniently forget to mention that while you were finding yourself? I heard screeching from the phone. Her cousin just laughed. Thought so. Enjoy your night. She hung up and handed the phone back to me. That felt good, she admitted. She's going to lose her mind. She's already lost it. She just didn't realize you weren't going to be a pushover about it. My phone immediately started buzzing. Text after text. You're going to regret this. I can't believe you would do this to me. My own cousin? Really? You're sick. We're done. The engagement is off. I showed her cousin. She shrugged. Wasn't the engagement already off when she asked for a break to stay with another guy? Technically, yes. Then she's just catching up to reality. My phone rang again. Her mother this time. I sent it to voicemail. Then her sister called. Voicemail. Then her father. Same. Within an hour, I had 16 missed calls and probably 50 texts. I turned my phone off. Her cousin was watching the notifications pile up before I silenced the phone. She looked almost impressed. That's a lot of reaction for someone who wanted to take a break. She's not mad that the relationship is over. She's mad that she lost control of the narrative. How do you mean? She expected me to be devastated, crying, begging for her back. Instead, I'm at dinner with her cousin, clearly fine. That's not how she planned this. In her version, she was supposed to come back whenever she wanted, and I was supposed to be grateful. And instead, she found out I'm not a backup plan. I'm a person with options. That's what she can't handle. Want to get dessert? Her cousin asked. Absolutely. We didn't get home until midnight. By then, my fiancée had apparently driven to our apartment. Her car was in the lot. The lights were on inside. She's here, I said. Wanted to come up? Moral support. Probably not a good idea. She'll use it against both of us. Fair point. Text me later. Let me know you're okay. I will. I went upstairs. Unlocked the door. She was sitting on the couch, mascara streaked, still in whatever she'd been wearing at the restaurant. We need to talk, she said. About what? The break you requested? Or the guy you've been staying with? Or the fact that you're upset I wasn't waiting faithfully while you cheated? I didn't cheat. We're on a break. A break you asked for specifically so you could be with him without it being cheating. That's just cheating with extra steps. You're unbelievable. I try to be honest with you. Honest? You told me you were staying at your sister's. You were at some random apartment. You planned this whole thing to give yourself a guilt-free pass. That's not honesty. That's strategy. I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you. You knew exactly how to tell me. I want a break. To see if I miss you. That was your speech. Practice, probably. You just didn't mention the part where you already had someone lined up. You're twisting everything. I'm stating facts. You wanted a break. You got one. Now you're mad that the break applies to both of us. I went behind my back with my own cousin. I didn't go behind anything. I had dinner with someone. You literally gave me permission to do whatever I wanted when you asked for a break. I didn't think you'd actually do anything. You're supposed to miss me. You're supposed to wait. There it was. The truth. So the break was a test. You wanted to see if I'd be miserable without you while you had fun with your backup plan. That's not. And when I didn't react the way you expected, when I didn't beg and cry and prove how lost I am without you, you decided to come back early. Before I could realize I don't actually need you. Her face crumpled. That's so cruel. No. What's cruel is asking your fiancé for a break 3 days before Valentine's Day so you can sleep with another guy. What's cruel is lying about where you were staying. What's cruel is expecting me to be grateful when you decided to come back. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. This was a calculated plan to have your cake and eat it too. And now you're mad that I won't play along. She stood up. I want a ring back. Fine. I went to the bedroom, got the ring box from where she'd left it on the dresser, and handed it to her. That's IT? You're not even going to fight for us. No. After 3 years, you asked for a break to be with someone else. What exactly am I supposed to fight for? She stared at me like she'd never seen me before. Then she grabbed her bag, the ring box, and stormed out. I slept better that night than I had in months. Update 2, 1 week later. The week after Valentine's Day was interesting. That's putting it mildly. First, the family campaign started. Her mother called me 7 times in 2 days. I answered once. You need to apologize to my daughter. She started without preamble. For what? For humiliating her. For going on a date with her own cousin. For being cruel and vindictive. Did she tell you that she spent her break at another man's apartment? That she lied about where she was staying? Pause. That's not the point. It's exactly the point. She wanted freedom to explore other options. I gave it to her. She didn't like that I used the same freedom. You were engaged. You have responsibilities. So did she. She chose to ignore them. She hung up on me. Her sister texted me a novel about how I was emotionally abusive for tracking her location. I replied with one line. She never turned off location sharing. I just looked. No response to that. Her father, surprisingly, was more measured. He called once, asked what happened from my perspective, actually listened, and then said, I'm not going to defend what she did. But I hope you understand this puts the family in a difficult position. Understand. I also didn't create the situation. No. You didn't. He sounded tired. Take care of yourself. That was it. Probably the only reasonable person in her entire family. Meanwhile, her cousin and I kept talking. Not romantically. Not yet. Just talking. She was the only person who saw the situation clearly without family bias. They're rallying around her. She told me over coffee a few days later. Full victim mode. She's telling everyone you were cold, distant, that you drove her away. And then when she tried to come back, you'd already replaced her with. Replaced her? We had dinner once. I know. But that's not the story she's telling. What's your family saying to you? She shrugged. My mom called me a traitor. Maya won't speak to me. My sister said I should be ashamed. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause problems for you. You didn't cause anything. She did. And honestly, the fact that they're blaming me instead of holding her accountable says everything about why she turned out the way she did. Still, it's your family. Some family is worth keeping. Some isn't. I'm old enough to know the difference. Here's where things got interesting. Remember how I mentioned she was at some guy's apartment? I did some digging. Not stalking, just following breadcrumbs. Social media is a gold mine if you know where to look. The apartment complex she was staying at, it's where her co-worker lives. The one she always said was just a work friend. The one she grabbed lunch with because their schedules align. The one whose name came up a little too often in casual conversation. Her cousin helped me piece it together. Apparently, this coworker had been liking all of her Instagram posts for months. Comments that were just a little too familiar. Inside jokes that excluded everyone else. The kind of engagement that makes you wonder how often they're actually talking. When I pointed this out to her cousin, she pulled up her own Instagram and started scrolling through my ex's posts. Look at this. Every single selfie. He's one of the first to comment. Beautiful as always. Lucky to know you. This has been going on since at least October. For months before she asked for a break. At minimum. This wasn't a sudden confusion about your relationship. This was a slow burn exit strategy. I sent him a message. Nothing aggressive. Just, hey, I'm the fiancé. Or was. Just wanted to let you know she has a pattern of doing this. Might want to consider that before getting serious. He blocked me within an hour. But I noticed something interesting. His Instagram went private. And her posts about finding herself and self-love journey suddenly stopped. Trouble in paradise already. My ex tried to contact me directly a few times. First, anger. You messaged him? Who do you think you are? Then guilt. I can't believe you would try to sabotage my life like this. I thought you were better than that. Then manipulation. I realize now that you're hurting. I hurt you. I'm sorry. Can we please just talk? I still love you. I made a terrible mistake. I didn't respond to any of them. Here's the thing about people like her. They don't understand when their manipulation stops working. Every time I didn't respond, she'd escalate. New approaches, new tactics, new stories. Each one designed to provoke a reaction. First came anger. How dare I message her coworker? Who did I think I was? I was obsessed and couldn't let go. Then came guilt. I was trying to sabotage her happiness. I wanted her to be miserable. I couldn't stand to see her move on. Then came manipulation. She realized now that she'd made a mistake. She still loved me. The break was a terrible idea. Could we please just talk like adults? Then came threats. If I didn't stop harassing her by not responding to her messages apparently, she'd make sure everyone knew what kind of person I really was. I didn't respond to any of them. Each message got screenshot, dated, and saved. Just in case. She started telling mutual friends that I was obsessed with her and couldn't let go. Meanwhile, SHE was the one sending me messages. The cognitive dissonance was almost impressive. About 5 days after Valentine's Day, she showed up at my apartment unannounced. I didn't let her in. Please. 5 minutes. I just want to talk. About what? Us. Our future. I made a mistake. I know that now. What changed? She hesitated. Things didn't work out the way I expected. With your coworker? Her face went red. How did you? Lucky guess. So he dumped you. And now you want to come back to safe old me. Am I getting that right? It wasn't like that. I realized I was confused. I thought I wanted something else, but what I really want is you. No. What you want is a backup plan. Someone to catch you when your first choice doesn't work out. I'm not interested in that role. You're being so cruel. I'm being honest. Something you should have tried 3 weeks ago. She left crying. Somehow I was still the bad guy in her mind. The lease situation was complicated. We were both on it. Her name, my name, shared responsibility. The apartment manager said we need to figure it out among ourselves or wait until the lease was up in 4 months. I offered her a deal. I'd take over the full lease, she'd get her deposit back. About $1,400. And we'd call even. She refused. Demanded I pay her half the furniture value plus emotional damages. The furniture argument was ridiculous because I'd bought most of it before we even moved in together, and emotional damages isn't a thing in lease disputes. I told her to take it up with a lawyer. She didn't have one. Couldn't afford one. Her coworker apparently wasn't the financial rescue she'd been hoping for. Turns out the guy made about the same as she did, which is to say, not enough to fund the lifestyle she'd been enjoying on our combined income. Her cousin, meanwhile, became a genuine friend. We texted daily, met for coffee a few times. Nothing romantic on the surface, but something was building. We both felt it. Is this weird? I asked her one evening at dinner. What? This. Us. You're her cousin. There are rules about this sort of thing. Rules made by people who've never been in the situation. She destroyed your relationship. I was here. We connected. That's not weird. That's just life. Your family will never accept it. Probably not. Does that bother you? I thought about it. Less than I thought it would. She smiled. Same. Final update. 3 weeks later. The resolution came faster than I expected. And Messier. My ex's desperation hit a peak about 2 weeks after Valentine's Day. The co-worker situation had apparently imploded spectacularly. Through the grapevine, her cousin, who still had 1 or 2 family members willing to share gossip, I learned that he'd broken things off because, wait for it, he found out she'd been engaged when they started talking. The irony was almost too perfect. She'd lied to him about me, just like she'd lied to me about him. And when the truth came out, he wanted nothing to do with her. From what her cousin gathered, the coworker had asked her directly, "Were you really engaged when we started talking?" And she'd apparently tried to spin it as technically, but basically over. He didn't buy it. Probably realized that if she'd lie about something that big, she'd lie about anything. So now she was single, humiliated, and living back with her parents. No fiancé. No boyfriend. No apartment. The life she'd been so eager to explore had collapsed in 3 weeks. Did I feel bad? A little. 3 years together doesn't just disappear. But mostly I felt relief. Relief that I'd seen who she really was before we'd gotten married. Before we'd had kids. Before she could do this to me when there was actually something at stake. The lease situation resolved itself when she realized she couldn't afford a lawyer, and I wasn't going to cave to her demands. She signed off on transferring the lease to me in exchange for her deposit back. I took the deal. $1,400 was a small price to pay for a clean break. Her stuff was packed by her sister on a Wednesday afternoon. I wasn't there. Didn't need to be. Her cousin offered to be present to make sure nothing got damaged or accidentally taken, but I declined. I just wanted it done. Everything she owned fit in about 12 boxes. Looking at the empty spaces in the apartment afterward, I realized how little of us there really was. Most of the furniture was mine. Most of the decor was mine. The kitchen stuff, the bedroom set, the TV, all mine, purchased before we moved in together or during the relationship with my money. She just occupied space. 3 years together, and she left barely a physical trace. Maybe that should have told me something earlier. The final communication came via email. Probably typed by her mother, knowing her writing style. It was 3 pages of emotional manipulation disguised as closure. She was hurt beyond words by my betrayal. She never meant for things to go this far. She still loved me despite my cruelty. She hoped I would someday realize what I'd lost. She wished me nothing but misery with her cousin. The last line was particularly charming. "You two deserve each other." I didn't respond. Just archived it in case I ever needed documentation. Her cousin read it, laughed, and said, "She's right about one thing. We probably do deserve each other. Just not in the way she means." About that, her cousin and I didn't officially start dating until almost a month after Valentine's Day. We both wanted to make sure it was real, not just revenge or rebound. We took it slow. Dinner, movies, long conversations about what we both wanted. It was real, different from anything I'd had before. She was honest in a way my ex never was. Direct. No games, no tests, no manipulation. When she felt something, she said it. When she wanted something, she asked for it. "I know this is complicated," she told me one night. "My family thinks I'm a traitor. Her family will never accept us. Every holiday is going to be awkward for the rest of our lives. Is that a deal breaker for you?" "No. Just a reality check. I want to make sure you know what you're signing up for." "I know. And I'm in." She smiled. "Me too." Her cousin, my girlfriend now, I guess, lost some family relationships over this. Her mom barely speaks to her. Her aunt, my ex's mother, sends passive-aggressive cards on holidays. Some cousins unfollowed her on social media. At one family dinner she wasn't invited to, apparently her name came up, and someone called her the betrayer, which is both dramatic and kind of hilarious. But her dad still talks to her. Her brother thinks the whole situation is hilarious and keeps asking for updates. And she has friends who understand. Family isn't just blood, she told me. Family is the people who show up for you, who tell you the truth even when it's hard, who don't enable your worst impulses. My ex never had that. She had enablers. People who made excuses for her, blamed everyone else, convinced her she was always the victim. And when that stopped working on me, she lost her mind. I ran into her once, about 3 weeks after everything settled. Grocery store, because of course. She saw me, froze, then walked the other direction. Didn't say a word. Neither did I. That's probably the best closure either of us is going to get. So where does this leave me? The apartment is quiet now. Different. I rearranged the furniture, painted one wall, bought some plants. It feels like mine for the first time in years. Her cousin comes over a few times a week. We cook dinner, watch bad reality TV, talk about our days. Normal stuff. Domestic stuff. It's nice. Simple in a way my previous relationship never was. Is it perfect? No. Her family still hates me. My ex is apparently telling anyone who will listen that I was abusive and she escaped a toxic relationship. Some people believe her. Most don't. But here's what I learned. You can't control what other people think of you. You can only control how you respond to situations. My ex wanted a break, so she could cheat without consequences. I gave her exactly what she asked for. And when the consequences came anyway, she blamed everyone but herself. That's her pattern. That'll always be her pattern. And I'm grateful I'm no longer part of it. To anyone reading this who's in a similar situation, trust your gut. When someone asks for a break right before a romantic holiday, they're not trying to find themselves. They're trying to find someone else while keeping you as a backup. You don't have to be the backup. You could just walk away. Let them discover exactly how much they need you. And when they come running back, you can be somewhere else entirely. Maybe even at a tapas restaurant with their cousin. Thanks for reading. Time to close this chapter.
Story 4.
The first 48 hours with our son were a beautiful, terrifying, sleep-deprived blur. My wife Sarah was a warrior. I was just the guy running on coffee and adrenaline trying to remember how to swaddle and not screw anything up. We brought him home, this tiny 7-pound miracle, and for one perfect evening it was just the three of us, our little family. We named him Alec. Not Alexander, just Alec. It felt strong, clean, and simple. It felt like him. The next day the family pilgrimage began. My parents cried, Sarah's parents cried, everyone cooed over Alec, calling his name perfect. Then my sister Chloe arrived. She breezed in, dropped a gift bag on the counter, and peered into the bassinet. "Oh, he's so tiny," she said before looking up at me. "So, Alec. You mean Alex, right?" I smiled, still running on the high of being a new dad. "No, Alec. A-L-E-C. Chloe's face pinched just for a second. It was a look I knew well, the one she got right before offering an opinion nobody asked for. "Oh," she said, the single syllable loaded with judgment. "Okay. Well, you know, everyone is just going to call him Alex anyway. You probably should have just gone with that." Sarah, who was sitting on the couch nursing a cup of tea, shifted uncomfortably. "We liked Alex," she said, her voice quiet. "It's the name we chose, Chloe," I added, trying to sound breezy and final. Chloe just shrugged and changed the subject to the hideous diaper bag she'd bought us. But the damage was done. A tiny crack had appeared in our perfect little bubble. For the next few days, Chloe was cold. Her texts were one-word answers. She ignored a picture I sent of Alec in his first bath. It was classic Chloe sulking. I'd seen it a million times ever since we were kids, and I got the video game console she wanted for Christmas. I figured she'd get over it. It was a stupid thing to be weird about. I was wrong. A week after Alec was born, she called me while I was rocking him to sleep. Sarah was in the shower, her first real break of the day. "Hey, what's up?" I whispered, pacing the nursery. "I need to talk to you about the baby's name," she said, no preamble. My spine stiffened. "Chloe, we're not having this conversation again." "No, you need to listen," she insisted, her voice gaining an urgent, almost frantic edge. "I've been thinking about it nonstop. It's just a dumb name, Connor. I'm sorry, but it is. It sounds incomplete, like you got halfway through Alex and gave up. He's going to have to correct people his entire life." I stopped pacing. Alex stirred in my arms, and I started rocking again, my movements jerky with anger. "It's our son. We chose it. It's done." "But it's not," she said, her voice rising. "It's a mistake. A stupid, trendy mistake, and you shouldn't have chosen it. I'm just trying to save you from future embarrassment. I heard the bathroom door creak open down the hall. Sarah? Chloe, I'm hanging up now, I said through gritted teeth. I'm just saying what everyone else is too polite to say. I ended the call and shoved my phone in my pocket, my hand trembling. I walked out of the nursery to see Sarah standing in the hallway wrapped in a towel, her face pale. She'd heard. I saw it in her eyes, that flicker of doubt, that fresh wave of anxiety that was already consuming her. The postpartum anxiety had hit Sarah like a truck. She was barely sleeping, even when Alec was. She worried about everything, if he was warm enough, if he was eating enough, if she was holding him right. She was fragile, second-guessing every single instinct. And now my sister had just lobbed a grenade into her fragile confidence, basically telling her she'd failed at the very first task of motherhood, naming her child. Don't listen to her, I said, my voice softer than I felt. She's being ridiculous. Sarah just nodded, not meeting my eyes, and disappeared into our bedroom. I knew she wouldn't just brush it off. It would sit there and fester, another thing for her anxious mind to latch onto. For 2 days, there was silence. I didn't reach out to Chloe, and she didn't reach out to me. I was hoping, praying she'd finally dropped it. I focused on Sarah, trying to rebuild the confidence Chloe had shattered. I kept telling her how much I loved the name Alec, how perfect it was, how perfect times he times was. She would smile, but it never quite reached her eyes. Then this afternoon, my phone buzzed. I was sitting on the floor trying to assemble a baby swing that looked like it required an engineering degree. Sarah was on the couch with Alec sleeping on her chest, a rare moment of peace. I glanced at the screen. It was a text from Chloe. My stomach dropped. My hands were shaking as I opened it. It wasn't an apology. It was an ultimatum. Asterisk, asterisk, I've spoken to Mom and Dad, and they agree with me. This isn't just my opinion anymore, it's a family opinion. You need to take it on board and change the name. If you won't do that, you at least need to go correct the spelling on the birth certificate to Alex. It's not too late to fix this. Asterisk, asterisk. I stared at the glowing screen, the words burning into my retinas. Asterisk, correct the spelling. Fix this. Asterisk. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, shaking with a rage so pure and cold it felt like ice water flooding my chest. Beside me, Sarah stirred. Alec was still asleep on her, his tiny chest rising and falling in a rhythm of perfect peace. A peace my sister seemed hell-bent on destroying. What is it? Sarah whispered, her eyes tracking the rigid line of my jaw. I didn't say a word. I just turned the phone and let her read it. I watched her face crumble. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was a quiet, devastating collapse. The light in her eyes just went out. Her shoulders slumped, and she pulled Alec a little closer, as if to shield him from the words on the screen. That was it. That was the last straw. I stood up carefully, placing the half-assembled baby swing parts on the floor, and walked into the kitchen. I hit Chloe's contact and put the phone to my ear. She answered on the second ring, her voice smug. Did you get my text? I think it's for the bee. Listen to me very carefully. I cut her off, my voice dangerously low. You will not contact me or Sarah about this again. Not by text, not by phone, not by carrier pigeon. Do you understand? There was a stunned silence. Excuse me, I was just... No, I snapped the word like a gunshot in the quiet house. You don't get to just anything. Your opinion on my son's name is useless. It is worthless. It means absolutely nothing to me, and even less to Sarah. The only thing it's doing is causing pain to a new mother who is already going through hell, and I will not allow it. How dare you, she shrieked, her voice cracking with indignation. I'm just sharing a family opinion. Mom and Dad agree with me. I don't care if the Pope himself agrees with you, I retorted, my voice rising. This is not a family opinion situation. This is my son, my wife, my family. There are some topics that are completely off limits. And this is the biggest one. You have crossed a line you can't even see anymore, Chloe. You're being a bully, Connor? I'm your sister. Then act like it, I was yelling, now pacing the kitchen tiles like a caged animal. A sister would have brought a casserole and told my wife she was doing a great job. A sister would have held her nephew and said his name was perfect because times he times is perfect. You have done nothing but try to tear down the first real decision we've made as parents. So we're done. This conversation is over permanently. I hung up before she could say another word. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I leaned against the counter, breathing heavily, the silence of the house pressing in on me. When I walked back into the living room, Sarah was looking at me, tears silently streaming down her cheeks. You didn't have to do that, she whispered, her voice thick. Yes, I said, my own voice shaking. I really, really did. The fallout was faster and more brutal than I could have imagined. 2 hours later, while I was finally wrestling the last screw into the baby swing, my mom called. Connor, what on earth did you say to your sister? She is absolutely beside herself. I didn't even try to soften it. I told her to leave us alone. She said you called her opinion useless and screamed at her. My dad's voice chimed in from a speakerphone. She was just trying to help, son. We all think Alec is a bit unconventional. Alex is just a stronger name. I felt a fresh wave of fury so potent it made me dizzy. Unconventional. It's a name. It's not like we named him Xylophone. And she wasn't helping, she was demanding. She sent Sarah a text telling us to go change the birth certificate. After I already told her to stop. Well, her delivery might have been a bit off, my mother conceded, but her heart was in the right place. You were far too harsh, Connor. She's your family. You owe her an apology. I laughed. It was a hollow, ugly sound. An apology? Are you kidding me? You want me to apologize for defending my wife and my son? You need to learn that not everything is a personal attack, my dad said, his tone dripping with paternal disappointment. You've completely overreacted and hurt your sister's feelings. Frankly, we're very disappointed in you. Disappointed. The word hit me like a physical blow. They weren't disappointed in Chloe for her cruelty, for her relentless harassment of a woman struggling with postpartum anxiety. They were disappointed in me for standing up to it. Okay, I said, my voice flat and dead. I see how it is. I have to go. Alec needs a diaper change. I hung up on them too. I didn't have the energy for another fight. I stood there in the living room, the garish, colorful baby swing finally assembled a monument to a life that was supposed to be joyful but now felt like a battlefield. My own parents. They had sided with her. I was completely on my own. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to the soft breathing of my wife and son. Sarah had finally fallen into a deep, exhausted sleep. I watched them for a long time, this perfect little unit I had fought for, and a corrosive doubt began to creep in. Was I too harsh? Did I overreact? The words my dad said echoed in my head. Asterisk, you've hurt your sister's feelings. Asterisk, in their eyes, I was the villain. I was the one who broke the peace, not Chloe. They had me questioning my own reality, my own justifiable anger. I slipped out of bed and went to the living room, the glow of my laptop screen cutting through the darkness. I felt isolated, cornered, and furious. I needed an outside perspective. I needed to know if I was crazy. My fingers flew across the keyboard, typing out the whole miserable story. The first visit, the phone call, the ultimatum, the showdown. I described Sarah's anxiety, my parents' betrayal, and the soul-crushing feeling of being ganged up on by the people who were supposed to be my biggest support. I typed until my fingers ached and my eyes burned. When I was done, I stared at the blinking cursor at the end of the post. I gave it a title, a simple, desperate question for a jury of anonymous strangers. Am I the bad guy for telling my sister her opinion on my son's name is useless and worthless? I took a deep breath. and I clicked post.
Story 5. 18 years of building a life together, or so I thought. Turns out, she was just climbing a ladder, and I was one of the rungs she stepped over. It all went down at the company's winter fundraiser gala. You know the type. Rented ballroom, trying way too hard to look upscale. Champagne that costs more than it should. People in expensive suits pretending they care about charity while really just networking. Rebecca had been obsessing over this event for weeks. Her new supervisor, Tyler, was going to be there. And she kept going on about how critical he was for her career advancement. How he was going to revolutionize the entire corporate structure. How being seen with him would elevate her position. We arrived at the venue around 7:30. The place was decorated like someone watched too many luxury hotel commercials. Lots of fake crystal chandeliers and excessive gold trim everywhere. Rebecca looked stunning in her navy blue dress, I'll give her that. But the second we walked through those doors, something changed in her demeanor. She got this practiced smile, the one she reserves for performances, for when she's working an audience rather than being genuine. We'd been there maybe 10 minutes when it happened. She leaned in close to me, close enough that I could feel her breath on my ear, but there was no warmth in it. "Listen carefully," she whispered. "Don't embarrass me tonight. Tyler's really important. Do you understand?" Before I could even process what she was saying, she started brushing at my jacket lapel like she was removing dust from a museum piece. Her fingers were stiff, completely detached. This wasn't affection or even concern. This was her treating me like a prop that needed adjustment. Then she glanced toward a side corridor near the bar. The kind of hallway where catering staff and maintenance workers come and go like ghosts, invisible to the people who matter. "Maybe you'd be more comfortable back there," she said, not quite looking at me. "The main floor is getting pretty crowded, and I need to focus on making the right impressions tonight." I'm not going to pretend that didn't hurt. After 18 years being dismissed like hired help at an event for a company I helped build, yeah, it hurt. But I've learned that sometimes the most powerful response is silent. So I just nodded once. That was all she got from me. I turned and walked toward that service hallway without argument, without protest, without giving her the scene she probably expected. Found a spot near some stacked catering trays and loosened my tie, leaning against the wall. A young waiter spotted me and looked concerned, probably wondering if I was supposed to be back there. I gave him a slight smile and waved him off. No problem here. I was used to being in the shadows. Rebecca had been pushing me there for years. Tonight, she just made it official. From my position behind the scenes, I had a perfect view of the main ballroom. I watched Rebecca glide back into the spotlight, radiant and confident, her arm looped through Tyler's elbow. He looked exactly like you'd expect. Mid-30s guy in an expensive suit. The kind who probably has his entire persona built around quarterly earnings reports and disrupting traditional business models. Rebecca was introducing him to people, and I could hear fragments of her pitch. "Tyler is a true visionary," she told someone near the podium. "He's completely restructuring our approach to market positioning." I had to resist laughing at that. Restructuring, sure. At one point, maybe 20 minutes into my exile, someone in the crowd asked Rebecca about me. I heard the question clearly. "Isn't that your husband over there?" The person seemed confused about why I was standing alone in the service area. Rebecca didn't miss a beat. "Oh, him?" She laughed, light and dismissive. "That's just someone who used to do some consulting work here years ago. Ancient history, really. I'm actually surprised they let him attend." The group around her laughed politely. Tyler looked mildly uncomfortable for a second, but he didn't say anything to correct her. Just someone who used to do consulting work. Ancient history. Like I was a contractor she barely remembered. Not her husband of nearly 2 decades.
Not the man who'd spent years building the infrastructure she was currently exploiting for her career advancement. What Rebecca didn't know, what none of them standing in that ballroom knew, was that I wasn't just ancient history. 15 years ago, I was one of 3 people who founded the parent holding company that owned this entire operation. We'd started small, built it up through careful planning and strategic partnerships, and eventually it grew into the multi-division corporation it is today. About 7 years ago, I decided to step back from daily operation. I wanted to focus on other interests, spend more time on personal projects, be present for what I thought was my marriage. I believed Rebecca and I were partners building a life together. Turns out, she just saw my stepping back as her opportunity to step up. And she wasn't interested in sharing credit for anything. But here's the critical detail that Rebecca never understood. Stepping back from daily operations is not the same thing as walking away entirely. When I transitioned out of my active role, I kept certain protections in place. Legal safeguards embedded deep in the corporate structure. The kind of provisions most people never bother to read because they're buried in hundreds of pages of incorporation documents and bylaws. My attorney back then, this gray-haired cynic named Richard, who'd spent 40 years watching corporate backstabbing, had been adamant about these protections. People have short memories, he'd told me, over expensive scotch in his office. They'll forget who built the foundation the moment you're not in the room. Put your protections in writing. Make them ironclad and hide them in the fine print where ambitious people won't look. I'd taken his advice. One of those protections was buried in Section 7, subsection D of the corporate bylaws. We'd started calling it Provision 7D, though at the time it felt almost paranoid to include it. The provision stated that any founding member who was publicly humiliated, excluded, or denigrated by a current company representative during an official corporate event could trigger an immediate ethics review and board oversight. It was designed specifically to protect the people who'd built the company from being erased by newcomers who didn't respect or understand the foundation they were standing on. I'd honestly never thought I'd need to use it. It felt like insurance you hope never to claim. But standing there in that service hallway, watching my wife of 18 years literally delete me from her professional narrative while using connections I'd helped her build, something shifted in my perspective. This wasn't just about tonight. This was the culmination of years of dismissal. Years of her treating my contributions like embarrassment. Years of her acting like she'd achieved everything on her own. I stayed back there for maybe another 30 minutes, just watching. Rebecca gave a short speech at one point, thanking the new leadership team for refreshing the culture and modernizing outdated traditions. The irony was thick. Those traditions she was so eager to modernize, I'd helped create them. The culture she wanted to refresh, built on principles I'd established. But she talked about it all, like it was a burden she was heroically overcoming. I left the gala around 9, slipped out through that same service exit she'd directed me to. The valet fumbled with my keys when I handed him the ticket. He kept glancing at me, then at his phone, looking increasingly nervous. "Sir," he finally said, almost whispering, "I didn't realize you were here. I didn't know." He trailed off, handed me the keys with both hands like he was returning something valuable. I didn't ask what he meant. I just nodded and drove home. When I got to my house, I went straight to my office. Bottom drawer of my desk, behind a bunch of outdated quarterly reports and some retirement gift catalogs, I pulled out a thick folder. The tab was labeled in black marker, Gala Provision. The folder was full of legal documents. It's yellowed with age, each one initialed and time-stamped and absurdly specific. Here's a detail people might find interesting. These provisions had started as a joke. Years ago, when Rebecca and I were still genuinely close, we used to invent ridiculous fake clauses to make boring corporate meetings more entertaining. Stuff like no seafood-based appetizers at donor events. Or no speeches longer than 6 minutes, unless the speaker has lost a limb in combat or hostile takeover. Stupid stuff that made us laugh. But somewhere along the way, I'd stopped joking and started actually filing some of these provisions. Because real power isn't loud. It's boring. It hides in footnotes and subsections that nobody reads. And Provision 7D, the one about protecting founders from public humiliation, that one was very real. I found the specific page I needed. The language was precise. If any beneficiary or public representative of the firm initiates reputational damage, exclusion, or denigration of any protected founder or legacy member during a corporate-sponsored event, said action shall trigger immediate board review under the Discretionary Stability Protocol. Below that was a list of protected names. Mine was there. So was Rebecca's, from years ago when she'd briefly served on an advisory board during the early expansion. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the one I needed. Chairman William Hayes, Parent Holding Group. The number hadn't changed since the merger in 2006. Neither had the relationship. William and I went back to the very beginning. He'd been our first major investor, and over the years we'd developed a friendship built on mutual respect and shared vision. I opened a new message and typed carefully, knowing each word mattered. Per Provision 7D, I am formally invoking the Discretionary Stability Protocol. Reputational breach confirmed at tonight's corporate event. Media documentation available upon request. I attached a photograph that someone had already posted to social media from the gala. In it, Rebecca was clearly visible, her hand on my chest, gesturing toward the exit. I was in the background, half shadowed, looking somewhere between confused and compliant. I hit send at 11:47 p.m. The response came back at 11:50, just 3 minutes later. Received and acknowledged. Board review commences Monday 9 a.m. Your legacy position status remains valid. Full protections apply. No legalese. No lengthy explanation. Just confirmation that the machinery I'd put in place years ago was now activated. Rebecca started calling around midnight. The first call, I let go to voicemail. Her voice was defensive, almost casual. Hey, I know that probably came out wrong tonight. It was just optics, you know? Tyler needed to see me as independent, as my own person. You understand how these things work? There was a forced laugh. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings or anything. Second call. 20 minutes later. Her tone had shifted slightly. Listen, I'm serious now. I don't know what you think you're doing, but if this is about some old provision in the corporate documents, come on. That stuff was symbolic. You wouldn't actually make this into something official, would you? She paused, and I could hear uncertainty creeping into her voice. We can talk about this like adults. I didn't answer any of the calls. There was nothing to say. For 18 years, I'd been talking, explaining, supporting, compromising. I was done negotiating. Instead, I turned to my computer and drafted a formal notice. I sent it to Chairman Hayes with full documentation. The email included the time-stamped photo from the gala, an audio clip from a microphone near the refreshments table that had caught Rebecca's comment about me being ancient history, a copy of the gala contract agreement that Rebecca had signed 3 months prior, under her role as brand representative, and a highlighted copy of Provision 7D, with both our signatures clearly visible. The reply came back faster than I expected, even for a late-night message. Received and acknowledged. Full board review begins Monday morning. Oversight committee has been notified. Your legacy protections remain intact and active. Rebecca called 4 more times that night. The messages got progressively more worried. By the 6th voicemail, her voice was quiet, measured, almost pleading. Okay, I get it. You're angry. But this isn't just about us anymore. There are other people's reputations involved. Careers at stake. Her voice dropped lower. Including mine. I silenced my phone after that and left it face down on my desk. Whatever happened next wasn't about emotion anymore. This was about enforcement. About boundaries that should never have needed defending in the first place. Monday morning, Rebecca showed up to work at her usual time, 8:45. She was dressed perfectly, carrying her expensive leather briefcase and a coffee from that place she liked. She walked up to the security gate and scanned her badge like she'd done hundreds of times before. The light turned red. Access denied. She tried again, slower this time, making sure the badge was properly aligned. Still red. The gate didn't open. The scanner made a harsh beeping sound that seemed louder than normal in the quiet lobby. She looked over at the reception desk, raising her hand slightly to get attention. The receptionist, a woman named Maria, who Rebecca had probably never bothered to acknowledge, in all the years she'd worked there, suddenly became very focused on her computer screen. No response, no eye contact. Excuse me, Rebecca called out, her voice taking on an edge. There's something wrong with my badge. I need to get upstairs. Maria kept typing for another long moment, then reached under her desk and pressed something. Not an alarm, but a silent notification that went directly to building management. Rebecca stood there for 3 full minutes. I know because security footage was later included in the formal review document. She checked her phone repeatedly, growing more agitated. No messages from HR, no emails, nothing explaining what was happening. Then an elevator opened and a facilities manager stepped out. His name was Kevin, and he was carrying a cardboard box. He walked straight to Rebecca without hesitation. Hey, sorry about this, he said, his tone flat and professional. Your office is being reassigned. You can collect your personal items now. He held out the box. Rebecca didn't take it immediately. She just stared at him. I'm the director of strategic development, she said, her voice rising. Why would my office be reassigned? This is obviously some kind of mistake. Kevin didn't flinch. He'd clearly been briefed on how to handle this. There's no mistake. New policy went into effect over the weekend, after the situation at the gala. He tilted the box slightly so she could see inside. There was a paper taped to the bottom, a printout of that same photo from the event, showing Rebecca dismissing me. Beneath it was an official memo. Internal use only. Reputational trigger under Provision 7D confirmed. Immediate review initiated. Protective measures for legacy shareholder engaged. Assigned contact. Director of Compliance, Paul Mitchell. Rebecca's face went pale. Not dramatically, not like in movies. Just a gradual draining of color as the reality settled in. She took the box with both hands, held it against her chest like it might protect her from what was happening. Kevin gestured toward a small seating area near the lobby wall. You can wait there. Someone from the ethics committee will be down to speak with you. She walked to the seating area in heels that suddenly sounded too loud against the marble floor. Each step echoed. She sat down and placed the box on her lap. Inside were the standard items from her office. A framed photo, a small plant, some pens she probably never used, her personalized notepad with her title embossed on it. Someone had also included her office nameplate, the one that had been mounted outside her door. Rebecca Sullivan, Director of Strategic Development. It had been unscrewed and placed in the box like evidence. She sat there for 40 minutes. People walked past, colleagues she'd worked with, some she'd managed. Not one of them stopped to ask if she was okay. A few glanced at her and then quickly looked away. Word travels fast in corporate environments, and by Monday morning, everyone knew something serious had happened. That evening, Rebecca got a call from Jennifer, a woman in accounting who'd been with the company almost as long as I had. Jennifer was calling from her personal phone, not the office line. That detail mattered. "Do you know what you've done?" Jennifer asked. Her tone wasn't angry, just matter of fact. Almost sad. "What are you talking about?" Rebecca's voice was shaky. "I was in a closed-door finance review this afternoon. We were pulling records from the holding company for next quarter's audit. There's a list of silent investors and controlling interest thresholds." Jennifer paused. "Your husband, your ex-husband, whatever he is now, he's still listed as a majority silent stakeholder. Do you understand what that means?" Rebecca didn't respond. "It means he has veto authority," Jennifer continued. "No expiration date. That designation stays active unless he sells his stake or dies. And here's the part you really need to understand. There's a provision in his original filing, power of veto over major personnel decisions that affect company reputation. You didn't just embarrass some retired consultant at a party. You publicly humiliated someone with legal authority over executive position." "Nobody told me," Rebecca whispered. "Nobody thought they needed to," Jennifer said. "He's been quiet for years. People assumed he'd gone fully inactive. But assumptions don't change legal documents. You kicked him out of a company event in front of donors he personally brought to the organization, in front of board members who remember when he ran everything. You did it while your arm was linked with Tyler, making it look like you were performing some kind of power move. And you got caught on camera doing it." There was silence on the line. Then Jennifer added, quieter now, "I warned you before about him. He doesn't fight loud. He fights long. The kind of long you don't see coming until the foundation beneath you isn't yours anymore." The call ended. Rebecca sat alone in her apartment, opened her laptop, and searched the internal corporate database. She typed in my name. Nothing came up in the standard employee directory. Then she searched the holding company registry, 3 levels deep in the corporate structure. There it was. David Sullivan. Legacy stakeholder. Advisory role. Class B silent authority. Next to it, a status indicator in green. Active. She clicked through to the corporate bylaws, found Section 7, subsection D. The language was clear. Stakeholder reputational protections. Trigger-based oversight protocol. Named Legacy Advisory Board Chair, David Sullivan. Term indefinite. She'd spent years thinking she knew everything about the company structure. She'd climbed the ladder, networked aggressively, positioned herself as a rising star. But she'd never bothered to look at the foundation. Never checked who still had their hands on the levers of actual power. The formal hearing notice arrived Tuesday morning. Hand-delivered by courier. A man in a dark suit with an ID badge from the holding group. The envelope had a security seal and an official header. Office of Internal Affairs. Corporate Ethics Division. Inside was a single page. Notice of Mandatory Review. Ethics and Oversight Committee. Conduct during winter fundraiser. Provision 7D. Protocol. Invocation. Date of appearance, Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Location, 14th floor, conference room C. The letter continued. You are hereby required to appear before the Ethics and Oversight Committee to respond to allegations of reputational damage triggered under Provision 7D of the Founders Preservation Statute. This action is non-negotiable. Failure to appear will result in assumed guilt and administrative penalties as defined in Articles 4, 5, and 9 of the Behavioral Safeguard Protocols. At the bottom, signed Director of Compliance, Paul Mitchell. Paul Mitchell. That name hit Rebecca hard. Paul was someone who'd sat in our living room years ago, someone I'd mentored when he was just starting his career. I taught him corporate law, helped him understand how to navigate complex organizational structures. Now he was the one enforcing the provisions I'd written. Thursday morning, Rebecca arrived at the 14th floor 15 minutes early. The hallway leading to conference room C was deliberately plain. No artwork, no company branding, just beige walls and fluorescent lighting. But at the end of the hallway, just before the conference room doors, there was something she hadn't noticed before. A steel plaque mounted on the wall. Polished, clean, with names etched in serif font. Founders, patrons, strategic partners, legacy titles. Rebecca's eyes scanned the list. She recognized some names, retired executives she'd heard stories about, and then she saw it. David Sullivan, Director Emeritus, Founding Partner. Not former. Not retired. Just Director Emeritus with no end date. The title was still active, still official, still carrying weight. Her name wasn't on that wall. It had never been on that wall. She'd thought she was building her own legacy. But she'd just been operating inside a structure someone else had built. With rules someone else had written. With protections someone else had embedded years before she'd even joined the company. The conference room doors opened. Two assistants gestured for her to enter. The room was cold. Deliberately so. 12 seats around a long table. 11 of them filled. At the head of the table sat Chairman William Hayes, the man Rebecca had quoted in press releases. The man she'd called a beacon of steady leadership. He didn't ask how she was. Didn't offer water or small talk. He just said, "Let's begin." Rebecca sat at the far end of the table, tried to maintain composure. Chairman Hayes opened a folder in front of him. "Ms. Sullivan," he said, using her maiden name. Not the married name she'd kept for professional reasons. "Before we proceed with formal documentation, I need to establish context on record. Please confirm that you knowingly dismissed a founding director of this institution at a public recorded company event." The room was completely silent. Not a cough, not a pen click, nothing. Rebecca's lips moved, but no sound came out at first. Then quietly, "I didn't know he still held that title." Chairman Hayes raised an eyebrow. "Legacy titles are not revocable by perception or assumption. They are protected under Articles 3, 5, and 12 of the Founders' Charter. Your actions, which were recorded, verified, and widely circulated, constitute direct reputational damage under Provision 7D. He leaned forward slightly. So I'll ask again. Please confirm for the record that you knowingly dismissed Director Emeritus Sullivan at a public company event. Rebecca looked down at her hand. Her fingers were clasped tight, knuckles white. Yes. Chairman Hayes made a note, signed something at the bottom of a page. Confirmation noted. That was it. No gavel. No dramatic pronouncement. Just documentation. A woman from legal slid a folder across the table. Inside was a separation agreement. The kind they give you when your only remaining choice is whether to leave quietly or create a spectacle that will destroy whatever professional reputation you have left. But the real devastation came after the hearing. Rebecca stepped out of the conference room, tried to gather herself, and nearly collided with Tyler, her supervisor, her mentor, the man whose rising career she'd tried to attach herself to. Tyler looked terrible. His eyes were bloodshot, his usually perfect hair disheveled. He grabbed her arm, not gently. Do you have any idea who he is to me? His voice was shaking. Rebecca blinked, confused. What are you talking about? Your husband, Tyler hit. The man you sent out the service exit like he was nobody. He was my first investor. I was 19 years old. Broke, no connections, no credibility. Nobody would touch me. But he did. He co-signed my first major funding round, paid for my legal counsel, introduced me to Chairman Hayes. Everything I've built professionally traces back to him believing in me when I had nothing. Rebecca felt the ground shift beneath her. I didn't know. You didn't ask, Tyler shot back. You dismissed him in front of half the advisory council. In front of donors he personally recruited. You humiliated him at a company event with me standing right next to you, making me complicit in disrespecting the one person who gave me a real chance. His voice dropped lower, more controlled, but somehow more cutting. You thought you were protecting my image. You were destroying the only professional relationship that actually mattered to me. Tyler, I was trying to help. Help? He laughed, bitter and sharp. You just burned the bridge between me and the man who built the road I'm standing on. This isn't about office politics anymore. This is about loyalty, about respect, about understanding where you actually came from. He let go of her arm, stepped back. We're done. You and me, professionally, we're done. He turned and walked away down that same hallway where the plaque hung, where my name was still etched in steel. He didn't look back. Rebecca received her formal termination papers that Friday. The company offered her a clean exit, no public scandal, no announcement to the industry, just a separation agreement with a severance package tied to a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement. She could leave with some dignity intact, or she could fight it and have everything that happened at the gala become public record in a legal battle she had no resources to win. She signed the papers that afternoon. I didn't see Rebecca again until about a month later. We met at a coffee shop to finalize our divorce paperwork. Yeah, that was happening too. Some betrayals you don't come back from, and this was one of them. She looked different when she walked in. The confidence that used to define her was just gone. She sat down across from me and stared at her coffee cup for a long time before speaking. I didn't know, she finally said. About the provision, about your authority, about Tyler, about any of it. I genuinely didn't know. You never asked, I replied. Not cruel, just honest. You saw me step back from daily operations and assumed that meant I was out completely. You rewrote our entire history to fit a narrative where you were the only one building something. I wanted to be my own person, she said. And there was real pain in her voice. Not just your wife, not just someone who got where she was because of who she married. Becca, you always were your own person. I never tried to stop you from building your own career. But you decided you had to erase me to elevate yourself. That was your choice, not mine. She didn't have an answer. We signed the divorce papers. The whole thing was finalized 6 weeks later. Rebecca works for a smaller consulting firm now, different industry, fresh start. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she's doing okay. We don't communicate. There's nothing left to say. As for me, I'm still involved with the company, though in a lighter capacity. Mostly advisory work. Strategic planning, mentoring younger executives who actually wanted to learn from people who came before them. My name is still on that founding plaque in the executive hallway. The one Rebecca walked past every single day for years without really seeing it. Without understanding what it meant. People ask me sometimes if I regret what happened. If I think invoking Provision 7D was too harsh. If I should have just let it go. But here's what they don't understand. I didn't create those consequences. The provision existed to protect people like me from exactly what she did. All I did was enforce boundaries that should never have needed enforcement. If Rebecca had treated me with even basic respect that night, none of this would have happened. She made a choice at that gala. She chose to publicly humiliate someone she assumed had no power to respond. She chose wrong. Sometimes the quietest people in the room are the ones who built it. Sometimes the people who forget that learn very expensive lessons about the difference between stepping back and stepping away. I stepped back from daily operation, but I never stepped away from my authority, my protections, my legacy. And when Rebecca pushed me toward that service exit, treating me like I was invisible, like I was nothing, she triggered the very safeguards I'd embedded years ago to prevent exactly that scenario. The irony isn't lost on me. She wanted me gone so badly that she never stopped to consider whether I'd already anticipated that possibility, and after all, I'd spent 15 years in corporate strategy. You don't reach that level without learning to protect yourself from every conceivable angle, including betrayal from the people closest to you. I'm not the villain here, despite what some people might think. I'm just someone who refused to be erased. And in a world where people constantly try to rewrite history to make themselves look better, sometimes refusing to disappear is the most powerful thing you can do. Rebecca learned that lesson the hard way, standing in an expensive ballroom under fake crystal chandeliers, making a choice that cost her everything she thought she'd built. Because what she built wasn't hers alone. It was built on a foundation I'd laid, with protections I'd embedded, under rules I'd written. And when she tried to take sole credit, when she tried to delete me from the story, the legal structure did exactly what it was designed to do. It protected the truth. You can dismiss the truth, try to bury it in a side hallway, pretend it doesn't exist. But it doesn't disappear. It waits. And sometimes it comes back with signatures, timestamps, and legal provisions that nobody remembered to read until it was too late. I'm at peace with how everything ended. Not happy exactly, but at peace. I know who I am, I know what I built, and I know that the best response to being written out of your own story is simply refusing to let someone else hold the pen. Rebecca tried to make me disappear. Instead, she erased herself. And all I had to do was remind everyone of what was already true, already documented, already signed and notarized years before she decided I was disposable. The foundation remembers, even when everyone else forgets. And sometimes that's all the revenge you need.
Story 6.
I am Sterling, 31, marketing manager in NYC. Last week was supposed to be one of the most important nights of my life. Instead, it became the most humiliating and eye-opening experience I have ever had. I am still processing what happened. And I need to share this because the weight of betrayal feels unbearable when you carry it alone. Peyton and I have been together for 2.5 years. She is 28, works as a real estate agent, and I genuinely believed she was my future. We have talked about marriage countless times, planned weekend trips to look at apartments we might rent together, even discussed baby names during lazy Sunday mornings. I had been planning our anniversary celebration for months because I wanted it to represent everything we were building together. I was going to propose. I made reservations at Le Bernardin, which, if you do not know, costs $400 per person and requires booking months in advance. I had to call in favors from a major client just to secure a table. I bought a new suit that made me feel confident, spent weeks researching the perfect engagement ring, and practiced my proposal speech until I could recite it in my sleep. The reservation was for 7 o'clock on a Thursday evening. I arrived early, nervous energy making my hands shake slightly as I checked my reflection in the restaurant's windows. The ring box felt significant in my jacket pocket. Not heavy, but present in a way that reminded me this night would change everything. 7 o'clock came and went. No Peyton. At 7:15, my phone buzzed. Running late, baby. Order appetizers. Traffic is crazy downtown. Don't be mad, I believed her completely. New York traffic is unpredictable, especially during rush hour on a Thursday. I ordered champagne, imagining her walking through the door with that apologetic smile that always made forgiveness easy. 7:38 of the clock. Another message. Traffic is insane. 30 more minutes, I promise. So sorry, Sterling. Other couples began settling into their evening routines around me. The waiter, Miguel, kept approaching with increasing concern in his eyes. He was professional about it, but I could see him exchanging glances with his colleagues. I felt the familiar burn of embarrassment creeping up my neck, but told myself this was just bad luck with timing. 8:30 brought what would be her final communication. Phone dying, almost there. Do not be mad. That was the last I heard from her. By 9 of the clock, her phone went straight to voicemail. I called repeatedly, my concern shifting from mild annoyance to genuine worry. What if something had happened? What if she was hurt somewhere? Unable to reach me, the restaurant manager approached my table with practiced diplomacy, explaining their policy about holding reservations while other couples waited. I faced an impossible choice: leave and lose the most expensive dinner reservation I had ever made, or stay and endure the public humiliation of eating alone while surrounded by celebrating couples. I chose to stay. Miguel looked at me with such genuine sympathy when I ordered the full tasting menu that I nearly broke down right there. Every course arrived like a marker of my solitude. Every glance from neighboring tables felt like pity. The proposal speech I had memorized felt like acid in my throat. I sat there for nearly 3 hours total, because I hope she will come. The couple at the table next to mine actually asked if I was okay when they saw me eating alone. I lied and said my girlfriend was running late from work but would be there soon. They smiled politely and returned to their own celebration, probably whispering about the sad man dining alone at one of the city's most romantic restaurants. I left at 9:45 after the dining room had mostly cleared. Miguel slipped me his card without explanation, and the manager quietly removed the champagne from my bill. Their kindness somehow made the humiliation worse. It confirmed that what had happened to me was as pathetic as it felt. Driving through Manhattan afterward, my mind raced between anger and genuine fear for her safety. Despite the humiliation burning in my chest, I was terrified something terrible had happened. I decided to check her apartment. That decision shattered everything I thought I knew about the woman I loved. Her car sat in its usual spot. Lights glowed warmly in her upstairs windows, but parked directly in front of her building was a massive black pickup truck I had never seen before, with vanity plates reading FlexDeck. I sat in my car for probably 15 minutes, my mind creating increasingly desperate explanations. Maybe it belonged to a neighbor. Maybe someone was helping her with an emergency. Maybe her phone really had died and she needed assistance. But my stomach already knew the truth. My mind refused to accept. I walked around to the back of her building where ground floor windows offered a view into her living room. The space was dimly lit, and scattered across her couch were clothes I recognized immediately. The black dress she had planned to wear to our dinner, shoes I had watched her choose that morning, jewelry I had given her for her last birthday. Then I heard voices from upstairs. Laughter. A man's deep voice that I recognized even though I had hoped never to hear it again. Decker Valdez. Her ex-boyfriend. The realization did not hit me gradually. It struck like physical violence. While I had sat alone at Le Bernardin for 3 hours, dying inside with worry and embarrassment, she had been upstairs with him. While I practiced my proposal speech one final time before leaving my apartment, she was already planning her betrayal. I do not remember the drive home. I do not remember removing my suit or putting the engagement ring back in its box. I only remember sitting on my couch at 2 a.m, staring at nothing, trying to understand how someone could be so calculatedly cruel. The woman I trusted completely had used our anniversary as cover for cheating with her ex. She let me wait alone in public while she was with another man. She watched me send worried texts and ignored every single one. I have barely slept since then. I keep replaying every moment of that night, wondering how I missed the signs, how I could have been so naive. How do you recover from learning that your entire relationship was built on lies? What kind of person does this to someone they claim to love? Update 1: the morning after I posted, Peyton started calling obsessively. When I finally answered on the 3rd day, she launched into an elaborate performance about having a family emergency. Her sister had supposedly been in a car accident. Her phone died at the hospital. She spent the entire night in the emergency room. The story was detailed, emotional, and completely convincing. If I had not seen that truck outside her apartment, if I had not heard Decker's voice through her windows, I might have believed every word. She wanted to meet immediately to explain everything properly and kept apologizing for missing our special night. Her distress seemed genuine. Her remorse appeared authentic. The manipulation was masterful. Instead of confronting her immediately, I told her I needed time to process and ask for space. Something inside me had fundamentally shifted during those 3 hours at Le Bernardin. I was no longer the trusting boyfriend who accepted explanations without question. That afternoon, I made a decision that changed everything. I hired a private investigator named Rex Donovan. Rex has been doing this work for 12 years and immediately understood what I was facing. He explained that emotional affairs often escalate to physical betrayal, and that systematic deception usually follows predictable patterns. He warned me that discovering the full truth might be more painful than I anticipated. Most people, he said, discover they were living in a completely different relationship than they thought. Over the next 10 days, Rex methodically documented Peyton's activities. The process was slower and more complex than I had imagined. Real surveillance requires patience, multiple observation points, and careful evidence gathering to stand up to scrutiny. What he discovered was devastating beyond my worst fears. The affair with Decker had been ongoing for 2 months. They had reconnected when Peyton joined his gym in January. And by February, they were meeting regularly at a motel 20 minutes from both their workplaces. Rex showed me time-stamped photographs of them entering and leaving restaurants, hotels, and most damning of all, surveillance footage from our anniversary night showing them arriving at her apartment at 6:30, just 30 minutes before our reservation. But the evidence that destroyed me completely was audio Rex captured using long-range surveillance equipment during one of their meetings. I heard Peyton's voice clearly. "Sterling actually thinks I had a family emergency. He is so trusting it is almost sad. He waited at that restaurant for 3 hours like a lost puppy." Decker's response was worse. "You could tell that guy anything and he would believe it. No wonder you got bored." They laughed together about my faithfulness. They mocked my devotion. They treated my love like a weakness to be exploited. Rex discovered that Decker owned a gym downtown and had been systematically undermining our relationship since Peyton started working out there. He told her I was too soft, that she needed someone more aggressive, that I was holding her back from the life she deserved. Classic manipulation tactics that unfortunately proved effective. The most calculated aspect was their timing. Rex found evidence that they had used at least 6 different relationship occasions as alibis for their hookups. My birthday dinner when she claimed to be sick. The weekend she said she was visiting her parents. Even the night I got promoted and wanted to celebrate. Our entire relationship had become cover for their affair. Rex also investigated Decker's background and discovered he was in the middle of a bitter custody battle with his ex-wife, who had divorced him for serial cheating. The man telling Peyton that I was not masculine enough had lost his own family, because he could not stop betraying the people who trusted him. Armed with comprehensive evidence, I faced a choice about how to proceed. Part of me wanted to confront them directly, but Rex advised a different approach. He suggested that systematic betrayal like this required strategic response, letting their actions speak for themselves rather than giving them opportunities to manipulate the narrative. Yesterday, Peyton called crying about how much she missed me, and suggested we have a makeup anniversary dinner to heal from the misunderstanding. She was clearly planning to use this dinner as another alibi for seeing Decker. I agreed to meet her tonight, but instead of going to dinner, I am going to show her everything Rex and I have discovered. The reckoning is coming, and I am done being the fool who trusts blindly. Update 2: when she arrived at my apartment that Saturday night, she looked beautiful and acted completely normal. She kept apologizing about the family emergency and talking excitedly about our makeup dinner. Watching her maintain this performance while knowing the truth was surreal. I had prepared what Rex called an evidence presentation, a comprehensive timeline of our relationship, alongside documentation of her affair. Photos, hotel receipts, surveillance footage, audio recordings, everything laid out chronologically. "Peyton," I said, opening my laptop, "before we go anywhere, you need to see something." Her reaction told me everything. As I showed her the evidence, her face went through distinct stages: confusion, recognition, panic. Then something I had never seen from her before: cold calculation. She did not deny anything. She did not apologize. She did not break down or beg forgiveness. Her first words were, "How long have you been having me followed?" Not "I am sorry." Not I can explain. Her immediate concern was about her privacy, not my pain. When I explained about seeing Decker's truck that night, she actually became angry at me. She said I had violated her privacy, and that what she did in her personal time was none of my business. Then she tried justification. She said her relationship with Decker was complicated, and that I would never understand their history. She claimed they had unfinished business, and she needed closure. When I played the audio of her mocking my faithfulness, she said I was being dramatic and possessive. The conversation ended with her saying maybe we wanted different things, and that my expectations of loyalty were unrealistic in modern relationships. She left that night, and I have not spoken to her since. But the story was just beginning. Following Rex's advice about systematic betrayal requiring systematic response, I spent several days preparing a comprehensive evidence package. Then I began sharing it selectively with people who deserved to know the truth. The consequences unfolded gradually over the following month. Her parents were my first call. They were horrified. They had been asking Peyton when we might get engaged, and she had told them I was not ready for commitment. They had no idea she was cheating and felt personally betrayed by her deception. They decided to stop providing the financial support that helped her afford her apartment. Her sister Madison reached out to me directly, apologizing for Peyton's behavior and saying she was ashamed to be related to someone capable of such cruelty. Madison had always liked me and felt deceived about our relationship status. Our mutual friend group was more complex. When I shared the evidence with them, most were shocked and supportive, but a few initially tried to stay neutral. Over time, as more details emerged and Peyton's manipulation tactics became clear, they all ended up choosing sides. By the end of the month, she had been removed from group chats and excluded from social gatherings. The professional consequences took longer but were ultimately more severe. Peyton's real estate office caters to high-end clients, many of whom value personal integrity and family stability. When her supervisor learned about the systematic deception in her personal life, particularly after a major client specifically asked about her character, it became a professional liability. She had been working with a Catholic family on a $3 million home purchase. When they learned about her affair through mutual connections, they requested a different agent and cited concerns about her trustworthiness. The lost commission was substantial, but more damaging was the reputation impact in her professional network. 3 weeks after the confrontation, she was placed on administrative leave pending a review. Real estate is built on trust and relationships, and word spreads quickly in professional communities. As for Decker, his karma unfolded more slowly, but just as thoroughly. His gym marketed itself as a family-friendly fitness community, and many of his clients were married professionals who viewed him as a role model. When word spread that he was actively helping women cheat on their partners, particularly given his own history with his ex-wife, the backlash was significant. Over 6 weeks, roughly 30% of his membership canceled. The gym industry is highly competitive, and losing that many clients creates a financial death spiral that is difficult to reverse. More damaging was the impact on his custody case. His ex-wife's attorney obtained copies of the surveillance evidence and presented it to the family court judge, a father fighting for visitation rights, while simultaneously seducing other men's girlfriends did not make a favorable impression. The judge reduced his scheduled visitation and ordered supervised visits only. Meanwhile, I have been focused on healing and understanding what this experience taught me about relationships, trust, and self-respect. Final update: 8 months have passed since that devastating anniversary dinner, and my life has transformed in ways I could never have anticipated when I was sitting alone at Le Bernardin. First, let me update you on the aftermath for Peyton and Decker, because the consequences continued long after my previous post. Peyton was ultimately terminated from her real estate position. The combination of lost clients, damaged professional relationships, and ongoing reputation issues made her unemployable at any reputable agency in Manhattan. The real estate industry operates on referrals and trust. Once word spreads about personal reliability issues, career rehabilitation becomes nearly impossible. Her parents followed through on cutting financial support, which forced her to move from her apartment to a shared living situation in Queens. The woman who mocked my faithfulness and called my love pathetic was suddenly struggling to cover basic expenses. Last I heard through remaining mutual connections, she was working retail while trying to rebuild her career in a different field. Decker's gym did eventually close. The membership losses continued beyond what his business could sustain, and he was forced to declare bankruptcy. His custody situation remained restricted to supervised visitation only. Rex mentioned that he was working as an employee trainer at someone else's facility rather than running his own business. But none of this felt like victory to me anymore. By month 4 of processing everything, I realized that focusing on their downfall was preventing me from moving forward constructively. The real growth came from examining my own patterns and what this relationship had taught me about boundaries, self-respect, and recognizing authentic love. I started therapy with someone who specializes in betrayal trauma. Through that work, I understood that my tendency to trust completely and ignore red flags was not actually a strength. It was avoidance of difficult conversations that might have revealed incompatibilities earlier. I also realized that the version of love I had with Peyton was based more on potential and hope than on genuine compatibility and shared values.
Story 7.
The C-130's engines whined down, and the ramp dropped onto the tarmac at Fort Bragg. A year in the sand gone. Just like that. I slung my duffel over my shoulder and walked into the hangar, scanning the crowd of families. Then I saw her. Sarah. My wife. She was backlit by the North Carolina sun, looking like an angel in a white sundress. She ran to me and I dropped my gear, catching her in my arms. I buried my face in her hair. She smelled like home. Like freshly cut grass and the lavender soap she always used. I missed you so much, she whispered into my chest. It's over, I said. I'm home. For good. The first week was a blur of perfect moments. We slept in, made love, and talked for hours about the future. The farm was thriving, the house was immaculate. My life was a blueprint I'd drawn myself, and everything was exactly where it should be. We were going to start trying for a baby right now. The first crack in the foundation appeared on a Tuesday. I was looking for a spare charging cable in the junk drawer in the kitchen. Underneath a tangle of old cords and dead batteries was her old phone, the one she said had shattered when she dropped it 6 months ago. Except it wasn't shattered. A long crack spiderwebbed across the screen, but it was intact. Curiosity is a bastard. I plugged it in. The screen lit up. A passcode. I tried her birthday. No luck. I tried our anniversary. Nothing. Then I tried 1, 2, 3, 4. It opened. Her texts were still there. A 6-month-long conversation with a contact named Ryder. I started at the beginning. Asterisk. Ryder fence posts are in. Head in. Out. Asterisk. Asterisk. Sarah already. Stay. Have a beer with me. Asterisk. He was the handyman she'd hired to fix up the back 40 while I was gone. The cowboy, she'd called him. A good old boy married with a baby on the way. Just a friendly guy. I kept scrolling. The text went from friendly to flirty. Flirty to filthy. Asterisk. Ryder. Can't stop thinking about you. Asterisk. Asterisk. Sarah, then come back over. He's thousands of miles away. Asterisk. My thumb swiped faster, a slick of sweat on the screen. The words blurred into a single cohesive nightmare. I saw their first kiss described in detail. Their first time in my truck. then in my barn, then in my bed. Asterisk. Sarah, I love you. I've never felt this way about anyone. Asterisk. Asterisk. Ryder, I love you too. More than her. Asterisk. Her. His pregnant wife. Then I saw the text that stopped my heart. Asterisk. Sarah. Last night was amazing. I love feeling you inside me with nothing between us. Asterisk. Unprotected. While we were planning to start a family, my family, the bile rose in my throat. I ran to the bathroom and heaved into the toilet until there was nothing left. I sat on the cold tile, the phone still clutched in my hand. They had planned a future. He was going to leave his wife after the baby was born. She was going to leave me the day I got home. They'd sell his place and live here. On my farm. In my house. The front door opened. Alan, honey, I'm home. I splashed water on my face and shoved the phone deep into my pocket. I walked out of the bathroom and forced a smile. My military training kicked in. Compartmentalize, suppress, survive. Hey, I said, my voice steady. How was your day? She kissed me. It felt like poison. Great, I was thinking we could grill steaks tonight. Celebrate. Celebrate what? Just you being home, she said, beaming. Us. The next few weeks were a special kind of hell. I lived a double life. On the outside, I was the happy returning husband. I went to the gym, I worked on the farm, I smiled at dinner. On the inside, I was a ghost. At night, I'd lie next to her staring at the ceiling, replaying their texts in my head. Some nights, I'd go to my gun safe, open it, and just look at my service pistol. The thought was a cool, dark comfort. A final way out. But I'd slam the safe shut, my whole body shaking. She never noticed a thing. She'd curl up against me talking about baby names. Finn for a boy. Olivia for a girl. She wanted to paint the spare bedroom a soft yellow. My stoicism started to fray. One afternoon, I was in the workshop trying to fix a generator. My hands were trembling, my breath caught in my chest. The walls felt like they were closing in. I slid down the wall, gasping for air, my heart hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape. The door creaked open. It was Sarah. Alan, oh my God, what's wrong? She knelt beside me. I couldn't speak. I could only shake my head. Is it your new pre-workout stuff? She asked, her voice dripping with concern. I told you that stuff was too strong. You need to be more careful. She helped me up, leading me into the house like a child, completely oblivious. She saw a panic attack and blamed it on creatine. It wasn't a lack of perception. It was a complete refusal to see. That was it. That was the moment I went from victim to soldier. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Then I hired a private investigator, an old army buddy who owed me a favor. I just need to know if it's still happening, I told him. Confirmation. 2 days later, Sarah kissed me goodbye. I'm meeting Stephanie for lunch, and then we're going shopping. I'll be back around 5. Love you. Love you too, I said. The words tasted like ash. I spent the afternoon cleaning my rifles, taking them apart, oiling the pieces, putting them back together. A calm, methodical task. A focus for the rage. My phone buzzed. A text from the PI. It was a picture. Grainy, taken from a distance, but unmistakable. Sarah getting out of her car in a Target parking lot. She was smiling, walking toward a dusty Ford F-250. Ryder's truck. He was leaning against the driver's side door, grinning back at her. The picture was time-stamped 5 minutes ago. My stomach twisted into a knot of ice. She was with him. Right now. My phone buzzed again. A new text. From Sarah. Asterisk. Having so much fun with Steph. We're trying on dresses. Wish you were here. Miss you already. XOXO asterisk. I stared at the two messages on my screen, stacked one on top of the other. A picture of my wife meeting her lover. A lie about shopping with a friend. The world didn't explode. It just went silent and sharp like the moment after a flashbang goes off. The ringing in my ears stopped. The fog in my head cleared. There was only the mission. I didn't text back. I didn't call. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and opened the junk drawer. I took out her old phone, the cracked repository of my own personal hell, and plugged it in. I photographed the screen with my phone, capturing the worst of it. The I love yous. The plans for my house. The text about unprotected sex. I saved the PI's picture. Then I went on Facebook. It took me less than 5 minutes to find Ryder's profile. His wife's name was Chloe. Her profile picture was a maternity shot, her hands cradling a perfect round belly. Her public posts were full of excitement about their baby boy. My finger hovered over her name. I copied the link to her profile. Then I sat in my armchair in the living room and waited. It was the easiest thing I'd done in months. There was no rage, no sorrow, just a cold, hard sense of purpose. An objective to be taken. The front door opened a little after 5. "I'm home," she sang, dropping shopping bags by the door. You would not believe the sale they had at Belk. She came over and leaned down to kiss me. I turned my head so her lips landed on my cheek. She frowned. "Everything okay?" "Where were you today, Sarah?" I asked. My voice was flat. Devoid of everything. "I told you with Stephanie." "Shopping." The lie came so easily. So practiced. "That's funny," I said, not looking at her. "Because Stephanie posted a picture of her and her kids at the zoo this afternoon. She tagged her mom. Said they were spending the whole day together." The air in the room changed. The pressure dropped. "Oh, well, we just went for a bit in the morning and then..." She started the lies already tangling. I held up my phone, showing her the PI's photo. Her smiling face walking toward Ryder's truck. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. "You're still seeing him?" I said. It wasn't a question. "Alan, it's not what it looks like. We just met for coffee to talk? For closure?" "Closure," I repeated the word. It tasted like dirt. "While you were texting me about trying on dresses..." "I didn't want you to worry. I knew how it would look," she cried, the tears already starting to well. "It meant nothing, I swear. It's over. I chose you." I watched her a specimen under glass. The performance was flawless. The panicked regret, the pleading eyes. It was all a lie. I had read the script. I knew how the story was supposed to end. With me gone. "I see," I said. I picked up my phone. I had already drafted the message. I created a new group text. I added Sarah, her mom, her dad, her sister Emily, and Chloe Ryder's pregnant wife. I attached the 5 screenshots. The photo from the parking lot. The text about loving him more than me. The plan to take my farm. The one about having unprotected sex. And the picture of her lying text from this afternoon. I didn't add a single word of my own. I just hit send. A moment of silence hung in the air. Then the buzz. Her phone on the entryway table. my phone in my hand. Her face went from pale to sheet white as she grabbed her phone. Her eyes darted across the screen, the realization dawning. Her phone began to ring. Her mother's name flashed on the screen. She ignored it. It rang again. Her father. "What did you do?" she whispered, her voice trembling with a fury that had nothing to do with remorse. "What did you do?" I told the truth, I said, standing up. "Something you seem to have forgotten how to do. You sent that to Chloe." "Are you insane? She's pregnant." "And you were sleeping with her husband. Unprotected. Did you think about her then?" She collapsed onto the sofa, sobbing. "It was just a fling. Alan A. Mistake. We can fix this. I can fix this." My phone rang. It was her father. I put it on speaker. "Alan, what the hell is this? You're airing our dirty laundry to everyone," he boomed. "Your daughter has been having an affair for 6 months, Bill. I thought you should know." "For Christ's sake, son, you were gone a year. What did you expect?" "A woman has needs," he yelled. "You've always been so distant. You can't just shut down and expect her to wait around forever." I heard her mother in the background. "This is your fault, Alan. You pushed her to this." I looked at Sarah. She wasn't protesting. She was just sitting there, letting them defend her. Letting them blame me. I clicked the phone off and dropped it on the table. "Get your things," I said. "I want you out, tonight." The divorce was filed the next day. The battle lines were drawn. Her family treated me like a leper. My friends, the ones who had been there when I put on the uniform and when I took it off, circled the wagons. They brought me beer and takeout, sat with me in silence on the porch, and never once told me I should have seen it coming. Sarah sent me desperate texts. Asterisk. "Please. Let's go to counseling. I'll do anything to make this right. I still love you." Asterisk. It was all noise. 2 weeks after the confrontation, my PI sent me one final email free of charge. It was a screenshot of Sarah's updated LinkedIn profile and a confirmation of a submitted application. A job in Austin, Texas, Ryder's hometown. She was pleading for our marriage with one hand and planning her escape with the other. The divorce was brutally, blessedly fast. She didn't fight for the house or the farm. She couldn't. It was all mine before she ever came into the picture. She took her car, her clothes, and the life she had built on lies, and she was gone. I heard through the grapevine that Ryder's wife had the baby, a healthy boy, and filed for divorce the following week, moving back to her parents' house. The first few months alone were quiet. The kind of quiet that buzzes. I'd walk the property, I'd cleared stand in the house I'd built, and feel like a ghost. I had been dismantled bolt by bolt down to the concrete slab of my foundation. There were nights the gun safe still called to me, a dark whisper in the silence. But one morning I woke up and the first thing I thought about wasn't her. It was the split rail fence that needed mending by the creek. I got up, made coffee, and went to work. My hands felt steady. The sun on my back felt warm. I had been so focused on being the rock, the stoic soldier, the self-sufficient man. I thought vulnerability was a liability, a weakness to be trained out of you. I was wrong. Vulnerability is what's left when the bullshit is burned away. It's the foundation. Faith, my friends, my own two hands, that's what I rebuilt on. I don't know what happened to her or to him, and I don't care. Their story is over. Mine is just beginning again. The blueprint of my life was shattered, but the land is still here. And for the first time in a long time, I'm free to build whatever I want.
Story 8.
For the first 4 years, Brenda wasn't just my mother-in-law. She was one of my best friends. I know how that sounds like something out of a cheesy greeting card, but it was true. We'd grab lunch, go shopping, and talk on the phone for hours about everything and nothing. She was the cool mom. I never had the one who'd share a bottle of wine and tell me wild stories from her youth. My husband, Ryan, loved it. He'd watch us, a big, goofy smile on his face, and say, "I'm the luckiest guy in the world." My two favorite women actually like each other. And I did. I really, truly did. Which is what made the turn so goddamn brutal. The first crack in the foundation appeared during Christmas. It had become a tradition for the five of us, me, Ryan, his brother, Dan, Brenda, and her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Rick, to go out for a festive night on the town. That year, we decided on a pub crawl through the city's historic district, all decked out in twinkling lights and fake snow. The night started perfectly. We were laughing, wearing stupid light-up reindeer antlers, and taking blurry selfies. Brenda was in top form charming the bartender and telling a story about the time she and her sister snuck into a Grateful Dead concert. She was magnetic when she was like that, the life of the party. Ryan and Dan were relaxed, enjoying seeing their mom so happy. The shift happened around the third bar. It was subtle at first. Her laughter got a little too loud, her movements a little too clumsy. She started talking over people, her eyes darting around the crowded room with a kind of predatory restlessness. Rick put his arm around her, trying to pull her close, and she violently shrugged him off. "Don't touch me," she slurred, her voice cutting through the festive music. Rick flinched. "Brenda, honey, what's wrong?" "What's wrong?" she shot back, her voice rising. "You've been staring at that waitress all night. That's what's wrong. You think I don't see you?" The waitress was a teenager with braces. Rick's face went pale. "I was ordering another round." "Jesus, Brenda, don't do this here." "Don't you Jesus Brenda me," she snarled. She jabbed a finger at his chest. "You're a pathetic old man and you're embarrassing me." The air around our table went frigid. Ryan jumped in, his voice low and pleading. "Mom, come on." He wasn't doing anything. "Let's just have a good time." "Oh, of course you take his side," she spat, rounding on her son. "You always take everyone's side but mine." Dan, who had been silent, just stared into his beer, his jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. This was a familiar dance for them, I realized. This was a script they knew by heart. I was the only one who had never seen this particular show before. I just sat there, my reindeer antlers suddenly feeling ridiculous, my stomach twisting into a knot. I tried to catch Ryan's eye to send a silent "let's go" message, but he was too focused on de-escalating the ticking time bomb that was his mother. The rest of the night was a masterclass in tension. Brenda alternated between seething silence and loud passive-aggressive digs at Rick. She'd accidentally knock his drink, then give a sickly sweet apology. She'd make comments just loud enough for us to hear. "Some men just can't keep it in their pants," she'd mutter to no one in particular. We all just tried to survive it. Dan disappeared into his phone. Ryan kept trying to change the subject with forced cheerfulness. "Hey, who wants another round of peppermint shots? I just wanted to crawl out of my own skin." The vibrant, funny woman I'd come to love had been replaced by this snarling, paranoid stranger. I watched her, my heart pounding, and a cold thought crept into my mind. I don't know this person at all. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Dan stood up. "I'm calling an Uber." "We're done." Brenda shot him a look of pure venom, but didn't argue. The fight had drained out of her, replaced by a sullen, simmering rage. The ride home was a new kind of hell. The five of us were crammed into the back of a minivan. The air thick with alcohol and unspoken anger. No one said a word. The only sound was the Christmas music playing softly from the driver's radio and the sound of Brenda's ragged breathing. I sat crushed between Ryan and the car door, trying to make myself as small as possible. I could feel the heat rolling off of her from across the seat. She was a furnace of fury, and I was terrified of what would happen when the door opened. And all that pressure was released. We pulled into the driveway of the home she shared with Rick, the house where Ryan and I were staying for the holiday weekend. The engine cut out, plunging us into an almost suffocating silence. For a moment, nobody moved. I remember thinking, okay, we made it. She'll go inside, pass out, and in the morning she'll pretend none of this ever happened. Rick was the first to break the stillness. He opened his door and got out, not even looking back at her. "I'm sleeping on the couch," he mumbled, and trudged toward the front door. Brenda watched him go, her expression unreadable in the dim light. Then, slowly, she turned her head. Her eyes glassy and cold, scanned past Ryan, past Dan, and landed directly on me. A strange, twisted smile spread across her lips. "Well, well, well," she whispered her voice, a low, dangerous growl. "Look what we have here." My blood ran cold. Ryan shifted beside me, sensing the change in the air. "Mom, what are you talking about? Let's just go inside." Brenda ignored him. Her focus was entirely on me. "I see how you look at him," she hissed, her voice thick with venom. "All night. Batting your little eyelashes at my other son. You think I'm stupid." I stared at her, completely bewildered. "What? Brenda, you're drunk? You're not making any sense." I glanced at Dan, who was frozen by the open car door, his face a mask of horror. "Oh, I'm making perfect sense," she sneered, climbing out of the car and stalking around to my side. "You're fucking my husband's brother, aren't you, in my house?" The accusation was so insane, so utterly detached from reality, that I couldn't help it. I laughed. It was a short, sharp, incredulous bark of a laugh. That was my mistake. Her face contorted into a mask of pure rage. She lunged her hand, flying at my face. It was a clumsy, drunken swing, but her nails raked across my cheek before I could even flinch. I scrambled backward into the car seat as she drew her fist back to punch me. "Mom," Ryan yelled, grabbing for her arm. But Dan was faster. He moved between us in a flash, shoving his mother back. "Get away from her! What the hell's wrong with you?" That's when Rick reappeared, drawn by the shouting. He saw Dan push Brenda and lost his mind. "You don't put your hands on her!" he roared, tackling Dan from the side. They both crashed into the gravel driveway. It was chaos. A nightmare of flailing limbs and guttural screams under the cold glare of the porch light. Ryan was trying to pull Rick off his brother, while Brenda clawed at Ryan's back, screaming obscenities. Rick had Dan pinned his hands around Dan's throat. I saw Dan's face turning purple, his eyes wide with panic. In a desperate move, Dan managed to flip them, getting on top and wrapping his arm around Rick's neck in a chokehold. "Stop fighting," Dan gasped. His voice strained. "Just stop." Rick thrashed for a few seconds and then went limp. Dan held him for a moment longer before letting go, scrambling to his feet, chest heaving. Brenda let out a sound like a wounded animal and ran to Rick's side. He was conscious, just gasping for air. She looked up from him, her eyes locking first on Dan, then on me. The hatred in them was biblical. "Get out," she whispered. "Get your shit and get out of my house. Now." We stumbled inside to grab our things. She followed us a destructive hurricane. She ripped our suitcase from my hands, unzipped it, and just started throwing our clothes out the front door and onto the lawn. Then she went for the truly precious things. She grabbed a framed photo of Ryan and me from our wedding day and smashed it over her knee. She saw my laptop on the desk, picked it up, and hurled it onto the tile floor where it shattered. Ryan was just yelling, "Mom, stop, please stop." But she was beyond reason. The last thing I saw before Dan pulled us out the door was her grabbing a shoebox of Ryan's childhood photos. Pictures of him as a baby, his first day of school, and tearing them to shreds, one by one. She never apologized. Not once. She told everyone we had attacked her and Rick for no reason. We didn't speak for a year. A solid, silent, miserable year. Then an email arrived. It was long and articulate, full of words like remorse and rock bottom. She claimed she was sober, that she was in therapy, and that the guilt of what she'd done was eating her alive. She begged for another chance. Ryan wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe her. So cautiously, I let her back in. And for a while, it was better than before. We spent the next 3 years rebuilding. We were careful at first, but slowly the old friendship returned. We went to movies, we had long lunches, we confided in each other. She was the Brenda I'd first met, funny, warm, and supportive. I told myself that night was a one-time psychotic break, a perfect storm of alcohol and jealousy that would never happen again. I let myself trust her completely. The second time it started the same way. A fun night, lots of drinks, lots of laughs. We were at a concert with one of her friends, a woman who, after a few cocktails, started making casually racist comments about the opening act. I said something mild like, "Hey, that's not cool." Brenda turned on me instantly. "Oh, calm down, Leah. It was a joke. You're so sensitive." The night soured from there. On the ride home, she started in on me. "You think you're so much better than us with your perfect little family," she slurred. "Brenda, my parents have nothing to do with this," I said, my stomach twisting into that old familiar knot. "Oh, please, your mother is a stuck-up bitch and your father is a spineless bore." They looked down on me. I see it. She was so vicious, so cruel that Ryan finally told the Uber driver to pull over. "Mom, get out. You can find your own way home." She did. She stumbled out of the car, slammed the door, and left us stranded downtown at 2 a.m. When we finally got back to her house to get our car, she was waiting. The moment I walked through the door, she was in my face. She grabbed my jaw, her fingers digging into my cheeks, forcing me to look at her. Her breath was hot and sour with whiskey. "You listen to me," she seethed, her eyes wild. "You don't ever disrespect me or my friends. You have no right." I pulled away, my heart hammering against my ribs. I looked at this woman, this monster who wore my friend's face, and all the love I had for her curdled into ash. "I am done, Brenda. I'm done with this." She laughed, a cold, empty sound. "Done? You can't be done." She gestured toward a terrified Ryan who was standing frozen in the doorway. "You're just my son's wife. That's all you'll ever be." That was it. That was the line that severed everything for good. Now, a week later, I am firmly no contact. I will not be betrayed a third time. I won't give her the chance. I found a small baggie in her desk drawer while packing our last few things. A crystalline substance that looked chillingly like meth. It suddenly made the Jekyll and Hyde transformations, the paranoia, the rages make a terrifying kind of sense. She isn't just an alcoholic. She's a narcissist with a drug problem, and I'm a threat to her supply or her ego or whatever twisted reality she lives in. The real problem isn't Brenda anymore. It's Ryan. Last night, while I was sitting on our couch, numb with shock and trying to process the fact that the woman I loved like a mother had put her hands on me again, Ryan packed an overnight bag. "Where are you going?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. I'm going to go stay with my mom." "Make sure she's okay," he said, not meeting my eyes. "She's all alone." He left. He left me, his wife, the person his mother had just assaulted, to go comfort his abuser. He's been texting me saying he's just trying to keep the peace, that she's fragile right now. I haven't responded. I'm sitting in our quiet house staring at the wall, and I have never felt so alone in my entire life. I've built my life around this man, and in the defining moment when I needed him to stand with me, to protect me from his own family, he walked out the door and went right back to her. I'm free of Brenda. I know that. With a certainty that chills me to the bone. But now I have to face a much more terrifying question. Am I about to lose my husband too? And what kind of life could we possibly build? What kind of children could we possibly raise in the shadow of a woman he will always choose over us?